The following recording is a production of Kickin' Out at 2 in conjunction with the Retromania Pro Wrestling Podcast Network and is intended for private use only. For more information, head on over to facebook.com/Kickin' Out at 2 or our Twitter handle @Kickin' Out 2, along with searching Retromania with a W on any and all podcast platforms available to listen to archive shows such as this and all the great content of the Retromania Pro Wrestling Podcast Network. Evergreen content at your fingertips anytime at your listening pleasure. And with that being said, we thank you for listening and hope you enjoy the show. You got to crawl to walk and you got to walk to rumble. And this is Build-A-Rumble here on Kickin' Out at 2 as we get ready for the 2024 Royal Rumble. And we're bringing the build concept back to Kickin' Out at 2 with a fantasy Royal Rumble. And joining me, the architect of our Build-A-Whatever concept that we have usually. Build-A Survivor Series was the last one he was a part of. We did a Build-A SummerSlam a couple of years ago. He's here for Build-A Royal Rumble, a fantasy Royal Rumble. That is my brother Justin Rosenmuth. What's up, dude?
Not much, man. Excited to get this going.
Yeah. We're gonna get right into it. Break down the rules here, the guidelines, if you will. We're gonna take, it's gonna be 30 entries, men only, because there's not been enough women's Royal Rumbles to do a fantasy women's Royal Rumble. Sorry for the feminists out there that are listening, but take 30 entries. We're gonna have 5 from the golden age of the WWF, 5 from the New Generation era, 5 from the Attitude Era, 5 from Ruthless Aggression, 5 from the PG era, and then 5 Royal Rumble virgins. And what I mean by Royal Rumble virgins is someone who has never taken part in a Royal Rumble match. They could be somebody that's never wrestled for the WWF. It could be a manager. It could be an announcer. It could be a referee. It could be a celebrity. We're kind of leaving the field open for the Royal Rumble virgins, so to speak. So what we're going to do is, because we're in the digital age, I decided not to waste, paper and by killing a tree. And I don't have a Royal Rumble tumbler. What I do have is the wheelofnames.com, and I put 30 entries. And what we'll do is, when I hit the wheel to spin, and the first category that comes up, or the first category that comes up, let's say it's the Golden Age, and then Justin and I will go back and forth, and we'll determine who's the first entry out of 5 for the Golden Age. So I have 30 different categories, 30 different entries onto this wheel, and we will break it down from there. And we'll talk about the individual, if we spun, their history in the Royal Rumble, how they may have performed, and just, kind of take it from there. We could go the route where we stack this Royal Rumble with 30 of the all-time greatest, or we can kind of balance out a Royal Rumble and do some top guys, some mid-card guys, maybe a tag team, some wild cards, because a lot of these Royal Rumbles, in the last, since its inception, they've really kind of balanced them out between the field of competitors, at least on the men's side. So I'm looking forward to this. You got your whiteboard. Getting set,
yes, sir.
Ready to go. So we are going to. If you need to get in a more comfortable position to do this,
I will over time.
Yeah, just kind
of. I'm just kind of setting us up here so that we can be nice and smooth here. And
okay.
How many from each era we are tallying up as we go along.
Yes,
that type of thing.
And
so we're not, spending too much time.
No. I mean, we're
trying to figure out stuff.
Yeah, no, I get it. So, I totally get it. So when. Are you ready? Ready to?
I will be in a moment.
Do the first entry. Okay. Well, while you're
keep chatting it up.
Okay. Perfect. While you're getting things together, head on over to Retromania on Podbean. You can find this show as well as all the great shows from the Retromania Pro Wrestling Podcast Network by searching Retromania with a W. Cool Truth is back with AC and the guys. They're talking pretty much how much they can't stand AEW, so you can check out their most recent show, New Year's Bash. Our last episode, which was a double feature, Dennis and I did, as we dissected the Finger Poke of Doom, as we watched frame by frame each and every segment from that angle from the January 4th episode of January 4th, 1999 episode of Monday Nitro. As well as we watched the Rock Mankind WWF title match from the other channel that same evening when Tony Schiavone spoiled the results and 600,000 people changed the channel to watch Mankind win the World Wrestling Federation Championship. So you can check those shows out, that New Year's double feature, part 1 and 2, dissecting the finger poke and Mankind's Miracle WWF Championship victory. We got all kinds of great archives over there in the on the feed. Marking out the days, Kobe and myself have some backlog content in there. Not sure if that show's going to come back or not. Kobe's been kind of on a little bit of a hiatus, but I'm holding down the fort here on this the pirate ship known as the Retromania Pro Wrestling Podcast Network, and we got all kinds of great content for you coming up in the very near future. So, without further ado, you can find, like I said, Retromania on Podbean. Search Retromania with a W or other podcast platforms available. Now, are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. So here's what we're gonna do. I got it on my phone. So wheelofnames.com. I'm gonna spin, and the name that comes up
of the era,
we will announce it, and then you and I will determine who should go in place to represent that era in this Build a Royal Rumble here on Kicking Out at 2. So without further ado, I'm going to spin the wheel and make the deal. And the first entry is from the New Generation.
Ooh, okay, the New Generation. All right. Let me hear your thought first, because I have a distinct thought for the New Generation. I mean, just for the way I would build a Rumble. But
okay.
I mean,
my first thought is going for a big guy.
Ooh,
okay. I'm looking between. There's probably about like 3 or 4 guys I'm really looking at that represents big guys when it comes to the New Generation era. I'm looking at Diesel, based on his performance in the '94 Royal Rumble, which was been deemed a Diesel moment in many fans' eyes over the years following that, when guys had just Diesel eliminated 7 or 8 guys in a row, which was
take over the ring by yourself.
Yep.
One by one,
yep.
kind of manhandle.
Pretty much ran the table and owned the field for quite some time until Kane did it a number of years later.
That never happened before Diesel, correct?
No, that didn't. So Diesel was like the first of his kind to do that.
Yep.
I'm also looking at a Bam Bam Bigelow.
Okay.
Big guy for his size, very agile. I think over the years, Bam Bam has had some decent performances, particularly in the '94 Royal Rumble. He lasted quite a while in that field. And I'm also looking at Yokozuna being the winner of the '93 Royal Rumble.
Okay.
He was a mainstay in the New Generation era. The WWF champion, winning the 1993 Royal Rumble, being a multiple-time WWF champion, having a pretty good, impressive performance in that Royal Rumble. I don't recall him doing anything of significance in Rumbles following that. He wasn't involved in the 94 Rumble or the 95 Rumble. He did have an entry in the 96 Royal Rumble, and he had that showdown with Vader. But
yep, I do remember that.
Other than that, his Rumble resume pretty much is from his victory stemming from 1993. So those are the names I've kind of thrown out there to represent the New Generation in this first entry into the Build a Royal Rumble. What do you got?
So I've got 3 names. And
okay.
They all share a common bond. One of them is Diesel. I think for everything you just said, Diesel is. He kind of made famous the Diesel spot with his contributions and role in the 1994 Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
He had that memorable last outing in 1996 with Shawn Michaels when, Diesel was still more or less kind of a tippy top guy.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a big deal. And those are really kind of the 2 of the highlights. But in terms of star power, New Generation, may have been one of the worst WWF champions of all time, but he was still at the top at that time for the most part, kind of sharing that spot with a few others. But that's one. Number 2 is one who I even as a kid remember recalling not being in many Royal Rumbles during this time frame because he was always doing something else on the card or not on the card at all. Razor Ramon.
He wasn't in any Royal Rumble.
Yes, exactly. And I think that's kind of like
in a Royal Rumble concept.
Match. I guess you could call him a virgin, right? Or would
honestly, he was one of the guys that I had earmarked to be in the Rumble Virgins category. Okay, but I mean, if you wanted to put him in there,
that's noted. Okay, and then so maybe the more competing idea for someone after Diesel, which you kind of we both led with. based on their performances in this time frame and in Royal Rumbles in this time frame, Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you kind of stretched to 93, and I guess for timeline purposes, we can call that new generation, but look at 1994. We had the Diesel run in 1994, but Shawn Michaels kind of had that, not created, but perfected that, like, hang on by the skin of your teeth type of...
That Iron Man role.
Near elimination...
Yeah.
Type of role.
A lot of guys have patterned it off for him.
1994.
Yes.
That was a 1994 thing.
Yes, he was in the Final Four in 94.
Yeah, and again, a lot of, skinning cats and things of that nature. That all kind of happened in that Royal Rumble to be, 1995.
He went coast to
coast. And, who cares?
96, he won.
Minutes. 1996, he won.
Yep.
So he was a large part of the Royal Rumbles in that time frame. So that would be my pick.
He also had some good. He also had some good performances in the later years when he came back during the Ruthless Aggression era in the Royal Rumble. 2005, even though it was brief, it led to that big match with Kurt Angle at WrestleMania that year. Even 2006, when he was involved and the McMahons got involved in the match. 2008 and 2007 and 2008. The final two with Undertaker in 2007, and then opening up the 2008 Royal Rumble against Undertaker and having a good performance during that match as well. So if we're going to narrow it down, I like Shawn Michaels and Diesel. I do like the idea of Yokozuna as well. Here's the thing. Shawn Michaels, if we put him on there, then Ruthless Aggression Shawn Michaels, Golden Age Rockers Shawn Michaels, that's off the table.
I'm okay with that. Okay? Personally, I'm okay with that. I think we're picking 30 people in the history of a damn near 40-year tradition.
Yeah.
35 years, I think, coming up this year, right? 36.
36, yeah. We hit 35 last year.
35. There's been 35 Royal Rumbles, and Shawn Michaels stretches a large portion, like you said, of those 35 years.
Yep.
Having said that, I think we have a large field to choose from. I'm not living and dying on Shawn Michaels.
Okay.
But I think this is the best. If we're talking about Royal Rumble performances, if I'm talking about building a Royal Rumble, from my perspective, I'm looking for the best parts of the history of the Royal Rumble, and for me, Shawn Michaels in that 3-year stretch.
And the resume that he had in the Royal Rumble.
Like, you can't write the story of the Royal Rumble without talking about those three, what Shawn Michaels did as part of the Royal Rumble in those 3 years.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of hard to argue that, considering the other two choices that I had brought up with being Diesel and Yokozuna. But there's still 4 more new generation picks that we can choose from. They can always come up at a time too. So you know what? You sold me on Shawn Michaels, so we're going to do new generation Shawn Michaels as the first entry into our Kicking Out at 2 Royal Rumble. And actually, how apropos, because he was number 1 in 1995 and winning that Royal Rumble. Exactly right, which also, too, if some of you Royal Rumble wrestling nerds out there remember, that Royal Rumble match was probably the shortest Royal Rumble match in history, which went just a little over 30 minutes. On average, usually the Rumbles go an hour if it's every 90 seconds for an individual.
I believe they were 45-second intervals.
Yeah, or even like 60 or something like that.
They were probably 45 like in Titan time,
yes,
as they call it. But I think, they were probably all like... They probably were no longer than 45.
Yes,
put it that way.
Exactly. Yeah. So, Shawn Michaels hits number 1 here on this.
And for the record, even though this is what you said, he's not drawing number 1. Not drawing number 1. Rumble. We could maybe one day go back and do that over again. If we wanted to, but he's just the first person we're
not going to do the order of entry of these guys. We're not going to build the order. We're just going to build the field of combatants. So he's the first pick in our Build a Royal Rumble from the new generation era. Let's go with the spin the wheel, make the deal again. Here we go.
We're probably going to new generation again.
A Rumble Virgin.
A Rumble Virgin, okay.
So
do we throw Razor on the board here? Do we go with Razor?
I kind of want to, because he's
not
never
Scott Hall. Razor.
No, Razor Ramon. Scott Hall was never in a Royal Rumble match.
Well, so let's just go through his Rumble timeline. 93.
He wrestled Brett for the title.
Yeah, he wrestled Brett for the title. 94 IRS.
IRS for the Intercontinental title.
Was it Jeff Jarrett?
96
Gold
Dust. Yep.
Yeah.
Never been in a Royal Rumble match.
I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think yeah, exactly. I feel like he's the quintessential Royal Rumble virgin.
Exactly. Yeah,
So,
he kind of
we're gonna lock Razor.
That's
in
the
here.
first choice right there, Razor Ramon. When it comes to that, that's what I was thinking when I thought of the category Royal Rumble virgins. He was right at the top of that list.
Oh, for sure.
And then I just kind of broadened the field just to kind of make it a little bit more interesting. So that
was a quick one.
Yeah, that was a quick
like
one
that.
here. We'll spin the wheel again here on wheelofnames.com.
You know what would be fun? I know we're obviously just starting this, but if we use the Wheel of Names to draw the order of all these people in a future episode.
We could do that too. And we have spun Golden Age.
Golden Age. Okay. I have one that I'm going to advocate for because, again, you talk about the history of the Royal Rumble.
Okay.
You can't not speak of this in this time frame. I also started my Royal Rumble marathoning just recently. So I obviously had to start with the very first Royal Rumble, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. I mean, to me, I'm not dying for it, but
the historical significance, I get it.
And if there's any, he was a part of the cast.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Just to say it so succinctly.
Yeah, he was.
The Golden Age.
Yeah, he was a player.
Yeah,
they put him in. You know, even though he didn't win the title and he wasn't in main events, he was a guy that worked with a lot of top guys. I mean, the run with, all right, here's one. I like the historical significance, okay? But here's one name that I think from that era has to be in it. Okay,
shoot.
Has to. Based on his history alone in this type of match, Andre the Giant.
That's a damn good one.
Andre the Giant was the king of the Battle Royals.
And honestly,
and he that's what, in a sense, he went from territory to territory, that was his match.
Thing. And honestly, he doesn't live in any other era.
Yeah, so this would be the only this would be the only time we'd have to put him in.
Yeah, I think Andre goes in. You're right on that. I think he does. I'm gonna put him down.
So you're locking it in?
Yeah, okay. I think that's just almost even out of tribute.
Okay,
he gets in. And here's the other thing too, like with naming Hacksaw, while he was the very first Royal Rumble winner. Like, Royal Rumbles aren't about the 30 very best getting in the ring to win. Like, that's where Drew Carey comes in. That's where, Santino Marella.
R-Truth.
There is some let-me-ups. There is some slapstick. I think we should be getting some of that in here to really build the perfect Royal Rumble.
Well, that's what I was getting at earlier, was that it's not necessarily, I don't at least think, would it be cool for us to stack a Royal Rumble with 30 goats?
No,
absolutely. It'd be the fucking ultimate wet dream right there for a wrestling fan. But I think, like you said, in the spirit of the Royal Rumble itself, you need some of those, a mid-card act. Exactly.
Sports entertainment is variety.
A variety show.
Yes, I said sports entertainment, not retro wrestling, not pro wrestling, sports entertainment. And the Royal Rumble, I think, is, especially to attract people who don't watch wrestling, they know in some respect what the Royal Rumble is. Isn't that the thing where the guy comes out and they jump in the ring and
throw him over the top,
and the people are counting?
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's translatable. It's identifiable.
That sounded like you did an impression of Pat Patterson explaining the Royal Rumble. Isn't that the thing where they're counting and they throw him over and then the motherfucker goes over the top?
Pat Patterson's Thanksgiving dinner, and they asked him about what he was working on this year
after he just fucking dragged 8 cigarettes in a row.
Exactly. So okay,
with the one in his ear still lit
have
up.
That established, because like I said, it can't be 30 serious contenders all the time.
One day we'll maybe do 30 goats.
Maybe,
who knows?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's been enough Royal Rumbles where you could potentially do that. So so we just did that. We had Golden Age Andre. I mean, I'm not going to recap too often here, but we got HBK, we got Razor as a virgin, and
Golden Age Andre. Yeah, so that's 3. So we got 27 more to go. So I'll hit the wheel again. Spin. Trying to make the wheel spinning noises.
Yeah.
We got another Rumble Virgin.
Another Rumble Virgin. Wow. Okay.
So this could, like I said, this could,
this is really anything in the sports entertainment universe.
Yeah, I mean, even celebrities that have taken part in wrestling over the years, you could throw
celebrities that have never been involved in WWE.
You could do that too as well. We could we could open it up that way as well.
Just to see where
managers,
our range is here.
Referees. Here's an interesting. I'll go to our social media because before I put this up. Ooh, I accidentally spun again. That will be the next entry.
Well, no, just disregard the spin because you'll have to spin again anyways.
Well, it just came up, so
yeah, but you'll just have to spin anyways.
Yeah, but it removes it from the wheel. That's the point.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, I'm sorry.
So we spun for the next one. So,
Okay.
all right, so we got Rumble Virgin, and then the next entry will be another new generation that I accidentally spun. So
Okay, but we'll stick on Virgin for now.
Yeah, we'll stick on the Virgin for now.
Virgin.
Another Rumble version here. So we went to social media, okay, and I asked our listeners and our followers to give us, their fantasy Royal Rumble based off of these guidelines here that I've set up. So, longtime follower Brian Carter for the Rumble Virgins, okay,
I'd love to hear his choices.
he put Shaq, Terry Crews, Gronk, Chris Hemsworth, and Alan Richson. I don't know who the fuck Alan Richson is. Do you?
No.
Yeah, I have no clue.
That maybe vaguely, the name maybe rings a bell, but I couldn't tell you where that falls in the world. The other ones are solid. I'm not a huge Gronk fan. I feel like he's silly.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mean that like in a curmudgeon.
I didn't care for him
way.
as the WrestleMania host
I don't
a few
think
years
he's
ago.
charismatic. I don't think he's a
He's a
to me,
fucking.
he doesn't have it. He doesn't have it.
He's a rich. He represent. He's like a rich college party boy
Yeah,
meathead.
he's a frat boy. But
Yeah.
that's fine. That's cool. But like, I don't know. I saw him host WrestleMania that year, and he's like made other appearances, and he looks like he's trying to play.
Yeah. He
And-
doesn't naturally fit into the role.
Yeah, like there are some of these celebrities, and this isn't a celebrity show, but there are some celebrities where like you're like, wow, that guy's a natural fit for this.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Whether it's their promo style, their athleticism, whatever. But like
Yeah.
in terms of a personality who commands attention when he's doing it, Gronk is not that guy. So honestly, I'm not saying Gronk can't be on the list, but I'm not picking Gronk. I'm not going with that one. To give respect to Brian, I'd put Shaq on there.
I'm not against that idea. Shaq's a recognizable name in sports, even in entertainment and across the world, and he's had some dabbles in wrestling over the years. He participated in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal a number of years ago at WrestleMania.
Entrant into that.
Exactly.
He's done some stuff with AEW.
Yeah, he did a match.
Tag match with Jade Cargill against...
Was it Cody?
Cody and somebody else.
I forget somebody, yeah.
Yeah. Because Brandy was pregnant at that point.
Oh,
I think.
okay.
But
Yeah.
I forgot her name. Red Velvet?
Something like that. That makes
whatever her name
that
is.
sounds about right. That sounds sorry, with all due respect to...
No, that's okay. We don't know who you are. That's what it is.
But
if you did enough to know who you for us to know
now,
who you are,
let me just break. So I like the idea of Shaq as a celebrity entrant. Okay, we can kind of like put him out there in the universe. If we are talking, I said earlier, like announcers, managers. Here's an interesting. Here's what I think would be a very, very entertaining story arc in a Royal Rumble match that I'm surprised was not a thing during this era. Bobby the Brain Heenan as an entry in the Royal Rumble match, and having like the Heenan family protect him during the match. Like he's going in there to try and prevent somebody like an Ultimate Warrior or a Hulk Hogan from winning the damn thing.
Okay.
Like Bobby Heenan's participated when it's been called for in physical angles before as the leader of the Heenan family. So I think that, and I mean, everyone remembers Bobby Heenan for his unbelievable call. His commentary in the 92 Rumble match with Ric Flair. So that's another name that I'd like to throw out there as like a Rumble virgin.
All right.
Any other ideas?
Rumble Virgin. This is going to sound... We're talking about storylines, things like that. I'm going to go back to the celebrity area. What about... I don't even know how this arrived in my head. Lance Armstrong.
How did that arrive in your head?
I mean...
The bicyclist?
Yes.
The one that cheated in the Tour de France?
The disgraced bicyclist.
Yep.
Yes. I guess maybe the fact that we're talking about some sort of marathon match, Lance Armstrong obviously being famous for the Tour de France, and of course, again, the scandals of performance-enhancing drugs and crime and all that. But imagine that guy.
He
and
started
that
the whole
background,
yellow wristbands for the cancer thing. Yeah, Live
and all
Strong.
that.
Yep.
I imagine that guy in a Royal Rumble where, he kind of heals up on that type of character of like, hey, like, I've done the Tour de France. I've raced all over the world and climbed mountains, and I was the most famous and greatest athlete that ever lived, and now I just what's one more hill to climb is win the Royal Rumble. You know what I mean? And But again, he's kind of a bad guy too because we all know he cheated. You know what I mean? We all know he's a disgraced athlete in a lot of respects. So, he's somewhat shitting on performance and wrestling. Just a thought. And I don't know, it'd be kind of funny to see him kind of race out of the gate on his bike to get into the match. And,
okay. I mean, that's not a bad idea. I think if it were, I could understand the wheels turning and could see the theory in that. I'm trying to think. We already have one.
I like Bobby, to be honest. I think Bobby probably goes in because of everything he just said. Like he's done it all. And he's left an impression on the Royal Rumble without actually being in it. So like it would only be appropriate. You know what I mean?
Bobby kind of hiding behind Andre while Andre's pretty much tossing everybody out.
Or he's running from Andre.
Too.
There's a lot of
there's a history with the
there's
two
a
of them
lot of bandwidth in terms of what he could be doing.
Yeah.
With any number of these wrestlers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I would put him to me that Lance Armstrong can maybe be later, but I could put Bobby Heenan on here for sure.
Okay, so Shaq and Bobby Heenan, were you out of the two?
Between the two of them?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, since we're looking at it now, like, to give Shaq some play here, like, Shaq and Andre in a nice stare down would be kind of cool. I mean, we've obviously seen Shaq and Big Show mix it up a little bit, but there's Shaq and Andre.
Yep.
Like, is there some sort of territorial exchange with Andre who admonishes anyone who dare step over the top rope?
Yeah.
Like there's that too.
Yeah.
So I think that could be interesting to play with. For sure.
So where are you leaning?
I'm probably still. Again, we could pick Shaq later.
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? We could pick Lance Armstrong later. Like
the Bobby Heenan.
I think Bobby Heenan's probably the most appropriate right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna
especially early on when we're rattling this off. We're rattling off, I think, in the beginning, somewhat obvious names.
Yeah.
So I think Bobby Heenan's a good obvious Royal Rumble virgin.
Yeah. All right, let's do it. Let's put Bobby Heenan in there. So Bobby Heenan will represent the Royal Rumble virgins in this Build a Royal Rumble.
And we said New Generation was accidentally spun next.
New Generation was accidentally spun next, so we are going to go with New Generation. Who are you looking? Who are you thinking of New Generation?
So we talked about Diesel. We talked about Yoko. We ended up going with HBK. Another guy, got a New Generation, who I don't think he's not a virgin, but this version of Bret the Hitman Hart didn't really have a lot of Royal Rumble chops, other than that 94, which was a big one. He won that one. He tied it, and it was a big storyline. But like he was at the top of the heap a little bit in the WWF at that point, so he wasn't in the Royal Rumble a lot.
No.
So, imagine a 1995 Bret Hart in a Royal Rumble.
He wrestled Diesel for the title at that Royal Rumble.
1996. Same thing.
Yeah, Undertaker, yep. Headline that with Undertaker.
There's that. That's another one I'm thinking about. What about 1995 Purple Undertaker?
With the Phantom of the Opera mask?
Phantom of the Opera Undertaker.
I was thinking about that too.
Those would be a couple names that I would probably go with.
An Undertaker Andre stare down looks promising in a Royal Rumble.
And that Undertaker too. Like no one talks about that Undertaker. Like that's just a cool Undertaker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yes, there's Ministry Undertaker. Badass,
The original.
Yeah, there's so many iterations of the guy. Yeah. Obviously, they're going to stretch across all of these different eras, but that's a cool one to really think about in terms of like fantasizing.
Yeah. And the mask, I don't know what it is, but like even though the mask was used as a necessity because of the injury that he suffered at that time, it brought such a cool presentation, a cool look to his presentation that I kind of wish in some ways that he kept the mask a little longer.
Yeah, that's true.
I once did a show on masks and face paint on wrestlers. Okay. With Dennis, and you can find it in the archives. Where's your mask? And paint your face or something like that. You can find them in the archives. A couple of years old, and I was always curious, even though he didn't need it, what would it have been like if Undertaker wore face paint? Like not
just the tear,
not just the jail tattoo
the
tear,
1990 tear.
Yeah, not just that, but even just a little bit. Nothing too over the top, nothing too colorful, nothing that looks like Sting or the Road Warriors.
Imagine that Taker logo like around an eye.
See, that would be kind of cool. Yeah,
I could like on his face, over an eye.
Yes,
that could be cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Something like, and you incorporate like his eye, whether it's shut, like it makes it. it shows the full logo, but it's open. Kind of like what Jeff Hardy does with some of his face paint, where he opens and closes his eyes, and it just kind of like changes the effect of what the
Speaking of that injury that he
like.
had in terms of King Mabel.
Another big guy.
That's
big guy, yeah.
Especially at that time, he headlined a couple pay-per-views. Like, he won the King of the Ring.
Yeah.
Like, if we wanted to go serious with that performer, that would be the way to go. There's obviously Love Machine Viscera or Big Daddy V.
Yeah.
There's like obviously all those other ones, right? But
anything,
that's a thought too.
Yeah. If we're putting him in there, it says King Mabel or you know what I mean, from the new generation.
So to me, it's between King Mabel and Phantom Undertaker.
Okay,
I think are the two
now,
that we go with.
Here's one that just
I think it makes it fun, because if we go with either one of those versions of those people, it takes them off the board in other decades where we can give spots to more interesting characters elsewhere.
Now,
that's the logic.
Here's an idea. Okay, new generation. Looking for someone you talked about earlier, Shawn Michaels having that like Iron Man hang on, till the last second type of role in the match. But, Royal Rumbles have always, you would always find like an underdog in the Royal Rumble match itself. Someone that kind of hangs on by the skin of his teeth, but, he's a babyface, because those Iron Man kind of roles have been designed for heels. What if we threw 1, 2, 3 Kid in the mix?
I'm not against that either. I think that makes a solid 3 people to choose from.
Okay.
Kid, Mabel, and
Phantom Undertaker.
I'm kind of leaning towards Phantom Undertaker.
I'm kind of
when are we ever going to use Phantom Undertaker for any fantasy
that's true.
thing
it's usually
that
American,
the show ever does?
It's usually American Badass, or it's, the original. So, you know what? And Phantom Undertaker was such a short-lived period of time. He only had that mask on for a couple of months, and then he went back to being, the Lord of Darkness, the Phenom, the Purple Undertaker. So I'm cool with locking down Phantom Undertaker from the new generation.
Hell yeah, let's do that. All right, so just right here, Undertaker, because I don't think we
don't need to emphasize Phantom on the whiteboard.
Okay.
All right.
Undertaker.
So let's go.
This marker's got a limited shelf life, so I'm creating a backup.
Oh, really?
Here.
Okay. I gave you a shit marker. Okay. See, I was looking for him earlier.
I was going to want to send this to you anyways, I'm sure.
Okay. Yeah. Because I could put it up on the social media. All right. So I'm going to hit the wheel again here. I'm not going to make any of those noises, but let's see. All right. We have reached the Attitude Era. So there is quite the field to choose from in the Attitude Era. The first person that comes to mind for me in the Attitude Era, based on historical significance, and he's the only person that holds this record, 3-time Royal Rumble winner, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
It's hard to ignore that one. I have when that's hard to ignore.
Attitude Era, we saw Austin win 3 Rumbles. The Rock won 1 in 2000, and they pretty much, and Vince won 1. Mm-hmm. Vince won 1 in 90. So if you're going Attitude Era, you technically, I mean, at least everyone categorizes differently, but I look at the Attitude Era really starting in 1997. Where you saw like a shift and change in the characters. And so I'm going from like 97 to 02. Or 97 to 01 as the Attitude Era of the WWF. If that's what we're going to... If we need
that's
to...
That's fair. No, that's definitely fair. I mean, if you think about it, the way that match ended kind of was like emblematic of the shift in time. The whole Austin winning without the ref seeing and sort of cheating and sliding back
and the audience was kind of receptive towards it. At least they were split on it, I should say. Some were receptive and some weren't. Given the players involved. Bret Hart.
It was definitely like... Yeah, I think it was definitely an appropriate start in terms of the Attitude Era as it relates to Royal Rumbles are concerned. I don't want to say that the Attitude Era started then.
Yeah.
And get nailed to a cross somewhere.
Yeah. But I'd look at that 97 was a big shift in terms of character presentation and the product. And
that's a classic Royal. That's like probably one of my favorite all-time Royal Rumbles.
Yeah.
Partly why, going back to that angle, that was Bret Hart entering a Royal Rumble after really a few years of not being in one,
Yep.
kind of being a relative new player to the match.
He was gone for a little while. He had
Yeah.
he just came back a few months before.
Well, not just gone a little while, but gone, like, again, he hadn't been in a Rumble for a couple years.
Yeah, since 94.
When he won. And then, like, before that, he was kind of on the rise, and he wasn't really considered a player. So now he was this revered legend of sorts coming back, at this stage of his career, getting into that match again. And that's what made him being robbed of that Rumble win all the more heat-seeking.
Yeah.
Like, God, like, Stone Cold cheated. Bret Hart should have won that.
Yep.
Like, duh. And then, of course, again, so I kind of want to agree with you. I'm going to throw one name out here because I think she deserves to be in it, is China. There's been a few women who have made the Royal Rumbles. China, Beth Phoenix, Karma, Nia Jax.
Yeah, Nia Jax was in one.
China is probably going to only be in this one era, respectfully.
Yeah.
But
If we're gonna mix up and do variety, like we said earlier, then
that would be my proposal here.
Okay, I'm down with it. You know what?
We can always circle back to Steve Austin.
Yeah.
He's going to be in this match.
Yeah.
It's,
Let's lock China in.
Let's lock China in. China will be probably the only female entrant. Well, I don't know. You never know. There might be some females from the Ruthless Aggression era or even the PG era that might make it into this.
Well,
maybe a Beth Phoenix. Who knows? Maybe.
Well, let's put it this way. I would only put in females who have been in the match.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
I'm
Beth
not
Phoenix
putting
is-
Maria. Beth Phoenix.
Yeah,
Obviously,
Beth Phoenix
you know
has
what
been
I
in
mean?
the match. Yeah, that's as far as I know. Beth
Nia
Phoenix,
Jax,
Nia
Karma.
Jax, Karma. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's lock China in here. All right. So we have 24 more entries to go. Hitting the wheel right now. Let's see what comes up. And we are landing on another New Generation.
We're gonna wipe through New Generation. No problem.
Yeah. So that's the third one that's come up
Yeah.
for New Generation. So I mean, we just talked about him. Brett. Is it Brett? New Generation? The three that come up for me: Brett, Diesel, and Yoko.
Brett, Diesel, Yoko. Okay.
Those are the three that come up for me. Really, we kind of got given a cushion with the New Generation because Razor was a Rumble virgin and he was a big New Generation guy. So, we put Shawn Michaels in. And we put Phantom Undertaker in.
And I still want to keep. I still have like variety in the back of my mind.
Okay.
Brett in the New Generation is appealing, but we also have other places we can put him. Well, more specifically, Golden Age Brett, which is not a bad Brett. He was one of the first two people in a Royal Rumble ever.
Yeah, he was a tag wrestler, but he also did have a little bit of a singles run. If you as Intercontinental Champion,
He was he was one of the first two entrants in the Royal Rumble.
in the very first Royal Rumble
first
match.
Royal
Yes. And I think if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. Okay, but I think if I remember correctly, in the 91, I just watched the 90 Royal Rumble this morning
I
before we
finished it the other night.
Okay. And that's one of the most underrated Royal Rumble matches of all time based on the crowd reaction alone.
Yeah.
Everybody got a huge reaction. And when Brett came out, like he got a pop like you would have thought he was in the Sportatorium in world class.
Yeah.
Like it was huge.
Well, he got more fan mail than Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, right. I've heard that story before. Oh my God, we can do a whole podcast about about the lies
About
that
his
these guys
fables.
him and Hogan and Flair. They probably like the three top like self-promoting liars that there is in the world of wrestling. But anyways,
Exactly. So again, we're not talking Golden Age.
Yeah.
I do think maybe we could probably leave him out of New Generation, despite what we had mentioned about him.
Yeah.
In that interesting.
and you're looking for some variety.
And I'm looking for some variety.
I got a few that come to mind.
Give me one, and give me one of your varieties, and I'll try to pull another one out.
Tatanka.
Tatanka's a good one. Okay, I don't.
And I was also
he used to be one of my early favorites.
Yeah,
as a
I remember.
youngster.
I remember that.
used to like
I'm
Tatanka.
thinking Tatanka. If we're looking for variety and they're not like tippy top guys, I'm thinking Tatanka. And I'm thinking Double J Jeff Jarrett.
Ooh, Double J is not a bad one too.
Double J Jeff Jarrett only competed in one Royal Rumble match as Double J, which was 1994. Didn't have a great showing. I think Diesel tossed him out pretty quickly as a part of that whole run through that he had. Those are just a few of the, I guess you could say, mid card.
I'll give you here for variety here. Tatanka I like. Hakushi.
Ooh. Okay.
So obviously not, but he's not like a comedy act.
No.
But he's not like gonna win the fucking thing.
No.
He's gonna hold his own.
He'll have an impressive show.
You know what I mean? And he'll be one of those guys that I feel like you'll notice has like his own game plan when you're watching the match. Small example. I don't know which year it was. You're gonna probably be able to point it out as I say it. There was a year where Road Dogg just like curled up in the fetal position and in the corner of the ring one year. That's a great strategy. If you're trying to win the match in a shoot, get off your feet.
I think it was 2000.
Or not get off your feet, but stay prone.
Yeah, I think it was 99 or 2000 he did that.
It was one of those years. To me, that was like, but that guy wasn't winning. That guy, there was no threat.
He stood out, though.
For doing that. You know what I mean? It was like, I know what I'd be doing if I was trying to win the thing.
Yeah.
I would try to not get involved, and I would make sure that my feet were squarely on the ground, and I was in the fetal position. Like, he nailed it.
He related to people like us that are thinking in that sense, like what we would do if we were in that match.
Now, Hakushi probably wouldn't necessarily do that, but you could just see him scheming.
Like you said, he'd have his own style of how he's going to, his own game plan.
You know what I mean? Like, another example, I don't know what Royal Rumble this was, but I recall a Gregory Helms entrance where he just kind of like weaved his way down the ramp and around the ring and tried to kind of pick his spot to enter the match.
A conversation with him about that. Oh my God, I can't believe you just brought that up. I had a conversation with him once. We went out to eat, and it was actually about a month or so after that Rumble. We went out to eat somewhere in like New Jersey after an indie show, and I mentioned to him how he was ducking and dodging and weaving in and out, like he was the aisle is big enough where like he doesn't have to worry about that, but he was doing this, he was kind of scheming, and then
buying a little bit of time.
I said to him, what made you bring a towel down to the ring to throw it in someone's face? And he goes, that wasn't a towel. He goes, I picked up Sabu's turban off the ground and threw it at the first guy I saw.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. So I like little things like that make guys stand out. And I like your idea of circling back here because we're kind of went off the rails a little bit. Hakushi with having his own type of game plan. The only thing that limits him in a match like this is because he is such an aerial performer. Depending on how many guys are in the field, you don't have a whole lot of room to do a lot of high risk stuff.
That's true.
With a lot of guys in the ring. So it'd have to be limited to like a handful, or him and one other person.
So let's maybe move off of Hakushi for a second, but and stick within the new generation and find that collection of possible cerebral characters that would have probably again approached the Rumble, whether be it their entrance or their time in the ring, with a strategy of sorts.
Okay, I got one.
Okay,
I got one. 1993.
Okay.
Heel Doink the Clown.
Ooh. I think that had, again, fewer opportunities.
Bucket of water, pies in the face, the squirting of the flour out of the jacket.
Yes, I think it's Doink. I think we're putting him on here for the generation. I'm going to go with that one.
I like that.
Doink the Clown's a good one.
Doink the Clown.
Doink.
Heel Doink the Clown, 1993, because Doink was a heel and a baby face. It was actually two different people that portrayed the Doink character, but that's Matt Bourne, heel Doink the Clown.
Doink the Clown is definitely a good one.
So from New Generation, we got Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, and Doink the Clown.
Yep.
Okay.
And again, I like that. That's a role in the match that, like, we've talked about the Iron Man, like, kind of hanger on that Shawn Michaels was.
Yeah.
We talk about the big man and Andre, right, or the special attraction that China was.
Yeah.
Doink being that schemer, that
he's a wild
strategizer,
card.
that, like, again, he's not going to win, but it's like, okay, here's his approach to try to stay alive.
He's going to do some damage.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's at least standing out in the match.
He's going to do some damage for sure. All right, so we're down to two new generations left. We've picked the field. And we're picking the field, I should say. Hit the wheel again here, and we come up with another Attitude Era.
Okay, so we talked about we have China.
We have China. We talked about Steve Austin.
We talked about Steve Austin. We're gonna stick. We're gonna go variety kick here, but the man with the greatest elimination in Royal Rumble history, Taka Michinoku, has to be in this Royal Rumble. That elimination. If we're building a Rumble, that spot has to be in it.
Yes,
I'm fighting for that one.
All right, that's in the conversation because of that alone. And I want to. We got
let's go. Let's throw more names out there.
Variety. We talked about China earlier. If we're doing more variety, Taka's a great choice. Shit. What about Vince?
I had a feeling you might say that.
He won the damn thing.
Yeah,
it's just a name thrown out there. I'm not
a bad one, and
I'm not sold on it either.
It speaks to, along with China and even Taka for that matter, what the Attitude Era was, which was let's just throw shit on a wall and see what sticks.
Yep, exactly.
It in many ways defied logic and conventional wisdom in the history of wrestling, before and after.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, Vince is a good choice. We talked about Austin. Let me think what else here in terms of even just Kane. Kane's going to have to be talked about.
Yeah.
I mean, for the longest time held the record. And to me,
Kane's going to be talked about, but Kane could also be talked about in Ruthless Aggression and in PG. So, we could also bring him up in the conversation during those eras as well.
Record breaker is Attitude Era Kane, though.
That is
record
true.
holder. And to be fair, no disrespect to Roman Reigns and we're not going to count the greatest Royal Rumble and Braun Strowman.
Oh, fuck that, yeah.
To be fair, I don't know, when Roman broke it, it felt like they were breaking it to give it to Roman.
Exactly, yep.
And not that I don't think Roman Reigns, he's our tribal chief for crying out loud, but Kane held that record for 15 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was like a record.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there is that to think about.
Yeah, that's it's not a bad call.
Vince, we talked about Kane, Taka, who else? Let me think. Attitude Era.
I'm just going through the list. Like you mentioned, Road Dogg.
Road Dogg, yeah.
Road Dogg would be a good one. Going X-Pac.
Here's an
Val
interesting
Venus.
one. Here's an interesting one, and I believe it started the Royal Rumble that year. Chainsaw Charlie.
Chainsaw Charlie.
Him and Cactus, I believe,
yes,
kicked off
in
that
98.
Royal Rumble 98.
Yep.
They brought weapons in, something
they had a mini hardcore match.
So
it was different.
Chainsaw Charlie.
Okay.
I mean, what other point? I mean, there's really no other time we would be able to get Terry Funk in the match, unless we'd made him like a Rumble virgin.
But we can't do that if we're going to put Chainsaw Charlie in because we can't use the same guy.
No, but I'm saying that would be the time.
That would be
or the virgin part where you're using 1978
okay.
NWA champion.
But I don't think there's any other time to put in Taka.
Yeah, no. I mean, he's literally there for one purpose.
Yeah, that spot.
You know what I mean?
Which you can thank the Big Boss Man for because he fucking launched him. And the fact that they showed the replay all throughout the course of the match and is like, we're going to take a look at that one more time. Dude. It was like, you know what it felt like to me? It felt like watching Celebrity Deathmatch.
Yes.
When they would replay,
it was so gratuitous, but in a funny way.
Yes, it had this dark humor to it, and they were like, "Oh my god, let's see what he called them." Takamichi no Clue.
It was almost like they had to when they were filling time in the broadcast, they were like, "Let's go back to what happened 25 minutes ago."
And I bet you too. I'm willing to bet that wasn't something that they planned out. They probably were in the production truck. They were like, "You know what? There's a lull moment. What if we showed that replay again and see what happens?"
The people on the headsets were just having a good time.
Yeah,
that really popped them.
Yeah, I'd love to hear if that was a true
it's funny
or not.
We talk about Taka too because there's a buddy of mine that I went to high school with and I played football with, who was a wrestling fan, but we became more friends after high school. His name is T, and I just remember one time, he a couple years ago, it's not like I talk to the kid every day.
Yeah.
Usually he'll hit me up at WrestleMania, yo, are you there? Or
yep,
did you see that? Something like that. But a random text after maybe months or years of having not spoken, he goes, yo, Remember that Royal Rumble where Taka Michinoku got thrown out like, and of course I knew when we talked about it, and like that was kind of the, hey, how you been?
All right, throw it in.
To me, yeah, Taka.
Lock him
We're
in
going
there.
with Taka.
Taka Michinoku.
We're not writing Michinoku.
Kaientai Taka Michinoku. Indeed. Well, that was Funaki, but still.
And that Royal Rumble too was the one where they kind of ran into the match a handful of times too, right?
They were them and the Mean Street Posse.
Had a whole thing.
So like those two groups, they thought that they were getting entry into the Royal Rumble.
Yes.
And they were denied entry, and they were upset, so they were going to hijack the Rumble.
Yes.
And so Kaientai did it. Taka literally separated his shoulder, and then Funaki came back a couple more times, and then the Posse, I think, jumped in once or twice too.
Okay.
So that was like a little, like it was the let me up spot in the match. So Taka.
And it gave you that element of like what's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This uncontrollable element that's going to kind of keep everybody on their toes.
Yeah. All right. So we are at 22 entries right now. Hitting the wheel again here. Let's see who we land on here, which era. And we are going. Oh, for the first time, we have hit the PG era.
PG
of
era.
WWE.
Right.
So
what we call that, what, 2008 to like, I mean, I guess probably what, mid-teens, 10 years ago, 13, 14,
so
15.
maybe like 2008 to like 2014, 15 maybe.
Yeah. I mean, more or less. Yeah. That makes sense.
Now that's a big field.
That is a very big field.
That's a big
The
field.
first one that comes to mind is going to be John Cena.
Yeah.
He's 1-2 in that time frame.
I was
in
thinking,
that range. Kind of
Him.
bookended the era almost. He won in 08 and he won in. I mean, that was a legendary Royal Rumble surprise and an event where we are spoiled with surprises and it gets hard to be surprised almost. That one was. I remember we were at Hooters, and I remember we were watching it at Hooters. Like that was, that was a very good Royal Rumble too.
Yes,
overall.
that was a fun
I remember
Rumble.
enjoying the Madison Square Garden, the short entrance.
Yep.
So I'll throw him in there as a candidate for PG era.
Okay. If we're looking for a little more let me up or some variety, an R-Truth comes to mind.
Is a solid one.
Or a Santino.
Santino's not bad. He's got the record for the shortest time in.
Yep.
So that's certainly a candidate. Let me think of other ones that I think fit the PG bill. Kane's a good one.
Yeah.
Who else?
Randy Orton won in
Randy
2009.
Orton, I was just going to say that one.
That was when he was on fire.
Yes. So you had to give that man the Royal Rumble.
Yeah,
as far as I was concerned, like give it to him.
Yeah.
He had just kicked Vince McMahon in the head the prior Monday.
That's probably the only time I would, people say, "Oh, I'll bet my paycheck." That was probably the only time I would have legitimately bet my paycheck that he was going to be the one to win it because I didn't see the rest of the field as WrestleMania main event appealing in that period of time. But so Cena, Kane, Orton, I mentioned R-Truth for Santino for some variety.
Let me see who else. PG era.
Edge
is a good one. He won a Royal Rumble in that time, 2010.
Big Show,
yeah.
CM Punk.
Yeah.
Straight Edge superstar CM Punk with the Straight Edge Society.
Okay.
God, I'm trying to think who else would fit that bill. PG era. WWE.
I would say we talked about Orton. Batista. Batista's interesting in the same way that Bret Hart was interesting. He wasn't in a lot of Royal Rumble matches, other than the one he won, which we call Ruthless Aggression. He was on top during that time frame.
He also won in 2014. This is considered PG.
Kind of an attraction guy there.
That was very controversial.
Like, he wasn't. Yes, you're right. I guess I would say is like he wasn't like he wasn't. I don't want to say he wasn't a staple in the Royal Rumble, but he just wasn't. Like I said, he wasn't seen as a guy who was in the Royal Rumble every year, or he wouldn't produce anything memorable.
He had
much like Bret Hart didn't, because he wasn't in it a lot.
Yeah.
So I would say that there's an interesting. It checks some boxes. It's a fresh person, and it also is a serious person. Because we certainly while we're preaching variety.
Yep.
We got Doink Taka. You know what I mean?
Razor, Undertaker.
Like we got all these. But
Shawn Michaels.
We want to make sure that the field is still pretty quality too. And
exactly.
So I would say either Cena or Batista in this area.
Because if one or the other, you could still do Ruthless Aggression Cena. You know what? I'm gonna do. Let's do Batista.
Okay.
Because you can still do Ruthless Aggression. You could do 2003 rapper John Cena in a Royal Rumble, and that would be pretty cool.
Or 2005 John Cena.
Yeah.
Well, I guess he was still less rapper then. But
yeah.
So I think we go with
PG
Batista. PG Batista, which is again we're talking basically the height of his popularity.
Yeah.
So Batista.
All right. From the PG era. 21 entries to go. Hit the wheel, make the deal, spin the wheel, whatever you want to call it, and we are approaching another Attitude Era.
All right, so I feel like we need to give respect to the Attitude Era too. We can't just have all jokes in games.
Stone Cold.
I think you got to put Stone. Yeah, we got to.
Yeah, 3-time Royal Rumble winner, the only one that holds a record. Yeah, that's an easy one.
And if
we've been bouncing around his name for a while too. Like
he was a very integral part in all the Royal Rumble matches he participated in that time frame.
Yeah,
he was a storyline in all those matches. You know what I mean? 97, he had a Diesel-ish run.
Yep,
it was like a Diesel.
He was running the table.
Run.
98, he was the target. Everybody wanted to kill him.
99, he was the target.
He was the target. Vince put the bounty on him.
2001, it was the comeback story.
Yep.
So he was an integral part of that.
Yeah.
I think we gotta.
And then 2002, even if you think about it,
he was in the Final Four.
He was in the Final Four, but they kind of had. It was almost like I wouldn't say it was like a one last shot kind of vibe that they were giving off to him, but they were like, "Can he do it again? Like, that
was definitely.
Is he going to go for 4 now? You know what I mean? So, all right. So now we got 20 entries here. Hit that wheel again. Steve Austin representing the Attitude Era. I think we got 2 more Attitudes left. All right, we got another Rumble Virgin here that just popped up on the wheel.
3 Rumble Virgin.
So we got Razor Ramon and Bobby Heenan, right?
Yeah. So we got a wrestler who's never been in the Royal Rumble,
and a manager who's never been in the Royal Rumble,
a non-wrestling personality. In there. I think we Wrestling Virgin.
I'm going to go outside of the WWF WWE bubble.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to rattle off a few names and just let me know what you think. Great Muta. Never wrestled in the WWF.
Okay.
Bruiser Brody.
Ooh.
Okay. Somebody where a match like that, just everybody beating the shit out of each other, is designed for that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Freebird Michael Hayes.
Freebird Michael Hayes.
Okay. That's another name. Abdullah the Butcher.
Okay.
All right. And if we're thinking outside of the WWF bubble that has never been in a Royal Rumble match, Sting.
Those are all very good.
And it could be any version of Sting, too. It could be Surfer Sting. It could be Crow Sting. It could be Wolfpack Sting. It could be TNA Joker Sting.
Ooh, those are all really good. I'm really good with, honestly, all those.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm
so we almost got to, pull a name out of a hat for that.
So
and do
Sting, Abdullah, Michael Hayes, Brody.
Great Muta.
I think Michael Hayes is the one you pick out of that.
Dude.
I think he's a good one to pick because he's got the Freebirds with him.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Whether
Gordy
they come
and Roberts.
help him out.
Yep.
You know what I
like
mean?
that.
Or they there's some sort of shenanigans involved. I would say Michael Hayes. I'm gonna
all 3 Freebirds come out to a big pop, and then they do a little coin toss. Which one of us is going to go out there and represent us in the Royal Rumble?
Yeah, that's always a good.
Kind of like what Crime Time did a number of years ago
with the double-sided coin.
The double-sided coin, yeah. So
Michael
Hayes is a Royal Rumble virgin. 19 entries left. Let's spin this wheel here. Wheelandnames.com. And we got another one. Oh, for the first time. I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. For the first time, we have reached the Ruthless Aggression. All right. Ruthless Aggression. So.
All right.
We
did talk about Cena.
Talked about Cena. You know, we could even talk about Evolution Randy Orton.
Evolution Randy Orton.
Okay. Shelton Benjamin.
Excuse me.
Brock.
Brock. Although, I feel like even though that was when we saw Brock for the first time, like Brock that we have had since he came back post UFC.
Yeah.
Like he had that Royal Rumble run in 2020. That was pretty impressive.
Yep.
Where he almost went coast to coast.
Yeah.
He got eliminated by Drew.
Yep.
I'm going to throw an oddball name. Not even an oddball. Like a name that would be given respect.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be either, it could be JBL or it could be Bradshaw. Which could be Attitude Era Bradshaw, but it's also Ruthless Aggression.
APA Bradshaw.
He was still APA Bradshaw in the Ruthless Aggression era.
That's right. Yep. For a brief period of time, yeah.
I would almost
even after. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
I would almost put him in as APA Bradshaw from the early Ruthless Aggression era. He could be JBL. Don't hate that either.
I like the APA Bradshaw in the sense that character would fit well in that style of wrestling, but at the same time, I also like JBL for the fact that he played such a good chicken shit heel that I think that like having
He's a bastard.
Yes. And like having like his little cabinet there like help him like
I mean, I as you say it, like yeah, that definitely feels like the move. I would almost go with that.
Yeah, let's do JBL.
Yeah,
JBL
exactly.
right there. I like that. I like that call.
JBL.
Because there's more mileage in that match with JBL than there is with APA Bradshaw. APA Bradshaw can only deliver so many clotheslines from hell and get in so many brawls without being tossed over the ring. JBL, you can have him hide under the ring. You can do the fucking rope spot with like the Road Dogg rope spot that we just talked about.
He grabs the mic and starts talking shit.
Yeah,
or
he ducks underneath the bottom rope and goes to sit commentary with a Michael Cole or whoever's doing the call. You know what I mean?
Yep.
All right, so JBL on the board, first one from the Ruthless Aggression era. Let's spin this wheel once again. We got 18 entries left here, and we have reached another Ruthless Aggression.
It's funny. Okay, maybe one of the greatest to have never won a Royal Rumble, Eddie Guerrero.
Ooh, okay.
I mean, there's enough of there's range. He can be an Iron Man. He can be a sick asshole and a piece of shit. He can be lying and cheating, funny, happy-go-lucky. You know what I mean? There is. He's I don't want to say a utility player because I feel like diminishes his value, but he is whatever the situation calls for in a field.
I think you sold me on that. Yeah, I think you sold me on that. Let's lock him in. Eddie Guerrero, Latino Heat, Eddie Guerrero from the Ruthless Aggression era. Again, more mileage out of getting him from that era as opposed to getting an Eddie Guerrero from, let's say, even the Attitude Era when he came into the WWF.
Although, an Eddie Guerrero when during the Monday Night Wars would be an interesting thought, which is the Attitude. I mean, like
if we
WCW,
did like okay,
if we brought because he would that be a virgin though? No, not really, right?
No,
he would because we're not just stuck with WWF, right?
Well, for this one we are.
Okay, so then he would.
That's why I created the Rumble Virgin, but we could do something.
But yeah, like an Eddie Guerrero 1996 would have been interesting too.
Yeah.
But I think
or even LWO Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So let's hit the wheel again. 17 entries left on this Build a Royal Rumble. All right, we are down to New Generation.
All right, we're number 4 on the New Generation. So we got HBK, Taker, and Doink.
We've talked Brett a lot.
So here's what we have in terms of what we see amongst these three. We have a performer and a winner.
Shawn Michaels.
We've got, at least from the character perspective, a guy who's wasn't in those matches in The Undertaker during that time frame.
Yep.
And then we've got like a guy who's going to have a spot in that match in Doink with his strategic, plays here.
He's going to stand out.
So what based off of the New Generation can maybe be representative of the new generation, but also amongst this 3-person field, give some give not variety for the sake, but just represent the new generation.
Okay.
And give the mix of what the new generation was about.
Okay. I keep going back to Brett based on a lot of what you said. Okay. Brett not really having a whole lot of Rumble match experience because of his role those various years, with the exception of 94 and 97. I think of... Here's one, okay? This doesn't get really talked about enough, but this was probably one of the very few bright spots of this Royal Rumble match. And I'm thinking new generation Bob Backlund.
That crossed my mind. He crossed my mind.
It's just a name.
It's not a bad idea.
In the discussion, okay? So Brett, Bob Backlund, Diesel's still not on the board. Okay, given his, okay, Yoko winning and being a big, here's another one. Okay, it's in the same ballpark as Brett. Lex Luger.
Okay,
Luger wrestled in only 2 Rumble matches, 94 and 95, tying the 94 one with Brett.
Okay,
Brett and Luger are the only 2 guys who have tied a Royal Rumble. That's what their Royal Rumble distinction is, in my opinion.
Okay.
I would almost venture. We got 2 new generations left. I would almost put Brett and Luger, if you know.
Okay, I'm going to introduce a couple new generation names.
Okay.
We
talked about Tatanka earlier that you liked as well.
Tatanka I do like as well.
Yep.
We could cheat and put him in Ruthless Aggression.
Oh God, yeah, that's right. That cup of coffee.
It's not cheating, but
he did make an appearance.
He was there.
He was there
for a brief period of time.
Him and Matt Hardy were a tag team for a brief second on SmackDown.
But guys that are uniquely new generation and largely nothing else. The British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith. I mean, he is also Golden Era with the tag team, but is he really?
He was also a singles guy too with that match with Brett during the Golden Age of SummerSlam.
Absolutely. And he's a no nonsense Bulldog.
Yep.
Like he would run in there and he would kind of he would run through the brick wall.
He was the runner-up
people
with Shawn in 95.
Yep. And so there's him, and then we're going to keep it in the family. Owen Hart. He checks a box a lot like Eddie Guerrero does. Whether you want more of that or not, I don't know. But Owen Hart is an interesting one.
Okay.
So those would be 2 that I would add into the mix. I know you said as well. You said Diesel. You said Backlund. You said who else?
Yoko. Brett.
I would probably put with pick 4, and then we can always wrestle for pick 5 later. I would almost put Diesel in.
Okay,
that would be my pick amongst this within this topic.
Okay, so all right, so let's say we do that. Let's not lock it in just yet, but let's say we do that. Right, pick 5 for new generation. Is it automatic we put Brett in there?
I don't think it is.
Okay, so do you think that Brett technically would you consider him Attitude Era?
No, I would say he's either Golden or New Generation.
Okay, all right.
I mean, I guess technically he could if you wanted to really squeeze in the 97 because we talked about that. But are we going to really be that, like, are we going to put that much mental masturbation into trying to get him in there just to say he's there?
Yeah.
No.
I get it.
I would consider him more Golden in that respect. So I would say if he's not in, he's not in. Like, some people are not going to make this list.
Not every,
And I mean, I just introduced the idea of him on the list in general from that era because he wasn't, like, Royal Rumbles weren't his thing in that era because he was so busy being on top.
Okay.
But Diesel, I think, for his place in the history of the Royal Rumble, in terms of what's, like we said, the Diesel spot is a spot.
Yep.
Basically every year, almost every year,
Yeah.
or some version of it.
Yeah.
It started with him, and it's his
expanded.
legacy in the Royal Rumble.
It became Kane, and then it became Roman, and I think Brock did it. You know, like we talked about. You know, he ran the table.
There was that year in Boston, CM Punk, when he would cut promos in between. Like, it's not just a big dude that does it either.
All right.
So I'm saying Diesel.
All right, let's do it. Yeah, let's put Big Daddy Cool.
Plus, if you look at these names so far, on the New Generation. How does this not say New Generation? HBK, Undertaker, Doink the Clown, Diesel.
Yep.
Like,
and then you got a Razor Ramon as a Rumble virgin who was New Generation. So yeah.
So
New Generation's getting some good representation in this Rumble match. All right. Entry, we are at 16 entries. 16 entries left here. We've got 14 so far. Wheel has spun, and we are at the golden age.
The golden age. It's been a while. Oh my god.
Yeah.
So we talked about Hacksaw. Mm-hmm. I think Hulk Hogan's name.
I was going to say Hulk. Yep, Hogan's definitely in the discussion.
Now, the only reason why I'm not locking in Hulk Hogan yet is because there is an interesting argument to be pondered about him as ruthless aggression. Hulk Hogan being in the Royal
He was
Rumble.
pretty hot during that period of time. That'd have been kind of cool.
So that's why I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not
okay.
Ready
Not,
to throw,
not married to the idea of
I'm not
Hogan
locking him
and
into
golden age.
What about the Macho Man?
I was thinking.
the Macho Man, like, he's not going. This is one era.
Well, you could technically put him New Generation, but we already kind of.
I feel like in the same way that we said we would try to squeeze Brett in at 97.
Yeah,
it seems like cheating.
Okay. Yeah,
that 1994, 1993 era.
Yeah, makes sense. I get it.
He was kind of like, nah. So I would say Macho.
I get it. Yeah,
that's to me the pick we go with here.
Okay. So we've talked
you
Hogan.
Can introduce any more names,
we've talked Macho. You could argue a Warrior.
Yeah, Warrior's not a bad choice.
Someone who doesn't have a whole lot of Royal Rumble equity. Roddy Piper.
I was looking at your figurine over there, him, and I thought that too. There's Roddy Piper.
Roddy Piper.
Bret Hart.
Bret Hart.
Supporting player, Bret Hart.
Yeah.
Tag team.
Hart Foundation, Bret Hart tag
specialist,
team.
Hart Foundation, Bret Hart. I like that if we're going to put him in the match. I think that's the best place to put him of all the eras, given the space and availability.
Okay.
That would be, I would say either we go with Bret
or Savage.
Or Savage.
Okay. And yeah. Okay. You know what? You're right. I'm going to lean towards Savage.
Let's do Savage.
I'm going to lean towards Savage.
Like, he's not known for the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just like,
yeah.
You're getting the
Savage was only, Savage was in, he was in the 89, the 90. He was supposed to be in the 91, but he did that spot where he cost Warrior the title, and so therefore he left the building. So there was really only 29 guys in that match, which I find it interesting that they never put a replacement. They just had like somebody no-show. Like there wasn't somebody back there that wanted to be in the match, you know?
Right.
That's kind of funny that they didn't do that. And then Savage was in 92 and 90. Well, actually, he's not known for any memorable moments in the Royal Rumble match, but he's been in a few.
And again, the idea that he could create something in the match would be interesting with the players involved.
Yeah. Okay.
So I say Macho.
So Randy Savage, Golden Age representing. So now we're Field's halfway point right now. So we got 15 entries left. We got 15 on the board. Let's see what this wheel brings us on this Build-A-Rumble here on Kicking Out at 2. Another Ruthless Aggression.
All right. So we got JBL and Eddie so far. Again, we're talking Ruthless Aggression.
You mentioned Hogan.
Yeah, it seems interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're talking like Hollywood Hogan, red and yellow Hogan. We're talking. Fuck it. Do we put him in as Mr. America?
Ooh,
you know what I mean?
Oh, that would be interesting.
NWO returning Hulk Hogan.
Hollywood Hogan, yeah.
Well,
NWO.
Hollywood Hogan, like 03, like when he fought Vince.
When he was babyface?
Because he was, babyface, red and yellow Hollywood Hogan, or there's Hollywood Hogan heel when he first comes back. Or there's, like I said, Mr. America. Those are the three versions of Hulk Hogan that kind of reside in the Ruthless Aggression era.
He was hot. He was on fire as red and yellow. I was not the biggest Mr. America guy. As much as I have two Mr. America action figures in my.
I didn't like it either, to be fair.
I get that they were trying to go with the Dusty Rhodes Midnight Rider gimmick. I understand that, and it was supposed to be a big let me up, and then it was going to eventually lead back to Hogan and Vince, which I didn't mind that because the history there behind that, I think there was a lot of meat to chew on. But I do remember the feeling, and I might have told you this, but I went to a SmackDown taping in 2002 in Bridgeport, and the main event was Hogan and Edge against Kurt Angle and Chris Jericho. And it's very cliche for me to say, but this is the God's honest truth. I felt like I was a little kid watching Hulk Hogan again. The amount, the how popular he was during that time period, and it was like a homecoming for him. I think there was a lot of mileage for Hogan during that era, and I was kind of surprised that his run was as short as it was in that small window of time in 2002. You know, when Brock kind of killed him off.
Yep.
I was kind of disappointed because I thought there was a lot more that they could have done with him, but I understand the direction they were going in. I'm leaning towards...
Yeah, and I think it speaks to this concept because, like you said, there was a lot of mileage of reintroducing this new but old Hogan to this new
audience
era and audience of WWE, which is there's some mileage to bringing this version of Hulk Hogan to this concept, to the Royal Rumble, to this ultimate build a Royal Rumble, perfect Royal Rumble concept. We're gonna go Hollywood Hogan.
Hollywood Hogan 2002. Ruthless aggression
because we obviously know what Golden Age Hulk Hogan did, which was win 2 Royal Rumbles.
Yeah, he won 2
Royal. Don't want to ignore that slightly.
No, you don't, and he won one of them as the WWF champion.
Yes, so
which I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's probably the only time that someone as the champion has won the Royal Rumble.
Yes,
if I'm not mistaken.
All right, that's correct.
So we got 14 entries left. Hitting that wheel. Coming up here, what do we got? What are we landing on? We're landing on another Golden Age.
All right.
We've talked Brett.
Yeah, like I feel like we need some supporting players because I already had one in mind for like another era, but since we're on Golden Age,
let me hear what you got.
Well, it wouldn't be for Golden Age.
Okay,
but I think Brett from Golden Age fits as a supporting player.
Yeah,
who's gonna just put in work and be there, and he's going to have some strategy, but he's going to be able to work his ass off with anybody who comes across his way, and he's going to eliminate or he's going to team up, and he's going to because he's rather surface level character. You know what I mean? There's no like,
all right,
we still don't know Bret Hart at that point. You know what I mean? So that's why I feel like he would fit well. Doing much, he'd work with an Andre to help eliminate a Shawn, or you know what I mean, or whatever, because he was a bad guy back then for a large part of that era.
Okay.
Other people.
I was thinking Mr. Perfect on that
same
same wavelength as
You
Brett.
know what? Let's just put Mr. Perfect in. I think Perfect's a good one. He's not going to be in really any other ruthless aggression. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
I would say, yeah.
Or unless we were to put NWO Kurt Hennig into the mix, but no, Mr. Perfect.
I like Perfect. In this.
I was thinking Perfect or Rude on that.
I'm going to say Perfect.
That workhorse.
Because, I mean, unless we're going to give Rude in this match a spot where he does the robe spot, which is a pre-match.
That would be the first. You'd be the first entry into that, yeah.
So I would say, in terms of plug and play, Perfect.
Yeah, that works.
From that perspective,
that works. I like that.
Because when you set the field this way, then you kind of have to. Then you figure out whose strengths can be brought out. You know what I mean? So,
okay. No, I like that.
So perfect.
All right, wheels spinning again, and we are landing on another Rumble Virgin. All right.
So you know how I said Lance Armstrong? I don't need to put Lance Armstrong in the Rumble, but we kind of other things that we've talked about since then. Jogged my memory. Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris, 1994 Survivor Series. I think that's where you're going.
Yep.
Walker, Texas Ranger, Chuck Norris.
He fended off the gaggle of people there to
King Kong Bundy, Jeff Jarrett, IRS. Yeah.
I think there is an interesting
Walker,
albeit parody-like
Texas Ranger.
Imagine a stare down between Walker, Texas Ranger, Chuck Norris, and Bobby the Brain Heenan.
Yeah. Or all the heels are beating on the Undertaker, and Walker Texas Ranger comes in to make the save, and you got Walker Texas Ranger and the Undertaker.
A roundhouse kick party.
Yeah, and they're standing side by side fighting all these guys off. That's not a bad idea. I was all right. So let's. He's at the top of the list. I'm going to throw a few different names out for Rumble virgins. I'm thinking. I'm very biased, but I'm liking Lawrence Taylor. WrestleMania 11, Lawrence Taylor. Okay, never in a Royal Rumble, but his angle with Bam Bam kicked off at the 1995 Royal Rumble. All right.
Yeah. You know what?
But hold on.
Okay,
Let me just. I'm giving us options before we get married to our decisions. I was also thinking to Football Realm, Steve Mongo McMichael. Okay, I just remember, and I might have said this before to you, but I remember when they announced Lawrence Taylor's All-Pro team, and Mongo he wasn't even called Mongo then. He was just Steve McMichael, and he was still playing. He was on the All-Pro team. They announced Lawrence Taylor's All-Pro team that was going to back him up for this match against Bam Bam, and he was guest commentator on an episode of Monday Night Raw, and he got into a physical altercation with the Supreme Fighting Machine, who represented the $1 Million Corporation. And I just remember, like, how if you watched it, I just remember how intense it was. And if you watched it, you wouldn't think that this was just some athlete or celebrity that was getting involved in the match.
Yes, he wasn't playing like Gronk was.
Like, exactly.
He was going to fuck up.
Yeah. Those two were beating the shit out of each other. I just remember at 12 years old watching it, and I was thinking to myself, that's borderline like real. Do they not like each other? Like, did they go off the script kind of thing? So those are my Rumble virgin. I like a Norris. I like a LT.
LT's a good one, and I think to stay in the football, also from the All-Pro team, the Minister of Defense, Reggie White.
Yes,
would be a good one.
I like that.
Got some charisma to him.
Yep. He's also
wrestled.
Man. He wrestled Mongo at a Starcade, or not Starcade, a Slamboree or something years ago in WCW.
But here's the thing: I think it would be easier to distinguish a Reggie White from, we'll just say, WrestleMania 11, 1995 versus like Steve McMichael, who was Mongo later, because that's not who we're putting in the match. We're not putting in Four Horsemen with
Steve
Deborah McMichael.
Yep, we're not.
We're not putting him in, and I think. Do we want to work hard to make sure people understand that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So but I also like LT for the nod to history a little bit.
Yep. His angle kicked off at the Rumble.
Yeah.
With Bam Bam.
You know, Chuck Norris, I think, just outside of the fact that we're talking about Chuck Norris and roundhouse kicks and being an action hero, he was at the conclusion of an angle that started at the previous Royal Rumble.
Yep.
With and he was the guy that kind of helped out the Undertaker, not help out, but make sure the match went straight.
Yeah.
Based on what happened.
Make sure Undertaker got a fair shot at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think if we're picking a version here I think we've got three choices, and it's LT, it's Chuck Norris, and it's Reggie White.
Okay. I'm going to... Rumble virgins, what we got? Michael Hayes, Bobby Heenan, and Razor Ramon. I'm going to go... I like Lawrence Taylor.
Let's do LT.
For the nod to history.
Let's do LT.
I like Lawrence Taylor.
I think that's a good... Again, that's a WrestleMania main event angle started at that Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
So I would... I would say that one.
Okay. Lawrence Taylor making it.
We'll get you on the board, LT.
18 entries into this Rumble. We got 12 left. Going to hit the wheel again as Justin Jotz puts down LT on the board here. All right. Ruthless Aggression.
Ruthless Aggression number 4.
Ruthless Aggression number 4.
So we got JBL, we've got Eddie Guerrero, we've got Hulk Hogan. Shelton Benjamin.
I like Shelton Benjamin, and I also like Christian.
I like Christian too. I think he's got range.
Yeah.
I think this era of Christian's a little bit more of a little shit.
Yeah.
And there's some scheming to him.
Yeah.
He could scheme to win. He could scheme to not lose.
The presentation with him and Tomko, I thought, was really well done. I liked that, and even with Trish too.
I was gonna say even before that with Jericho.
Yeah, the stuff with Jericho was fun too.
I kind of like Christian here. I think of all the eras, if you had to pick an era that Christian was in, where he would be highlighted most,
it's the ruthless aggression. Yeah.
Christian.
You could make an argument for PG, but at the same time, I think PG was a little.
CW champion, you know.
I think PG was a
more match gimmick.
Yeah.
Great, because I was so happy to see him get there.
Yeah.
But his best stuff in WWE probably
as a singles was ruthless aggression.
As a character.
Yep.
I would say Christian
Yeah.
is the guy.
All right, let's put him in there. Represent the ruthless aggression. Wow, that's 4 right there. Ruthless aggression. Christian, Hogan, Guerrero, JBL. So we got one more spot for ruthless aggression here. All right, the board. We got 11 entries left. Let's see what we put up here. All right, Attitude Era.
All right, so to recap Attitude Era so far, we've got China, we've got Taka Michinoku, and we've got Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Okay. Know what name that we haven't brought up from the Attitude Era? Mick Foley.
Yeah.
And there's 3 different versions of him that you could use.
4 if you count Foley as a version. Well, he was actually less of a Foley.
He was a Foley in the Ruthless Aggression.
Yeah.
He had that spot with Orton in 2004.
So it's the 3 characters.
It's either Mankind, Cactus, or Dude Love. I would have to go. I'm just biased because it was my favorite version of him, but I'd have to go Cactus Jack.
I was thinking that too.
Based off of that '98 Rumble where he started it with Chainsaw and he got the
I would make a Dude Love pitch because Dude Love, the character, is the fantasy of a character that young Mick Foley wanted to be as a wrestler.
Yeah,
and this is a fantasy match, and I think there is the connection to be made with bringing all these multiverse characters in and make Foley the man getting to live out his fantasy in a fantasy. That would be, if we're talking storyline, if we're going to throw a storyline into this multiverse Build-A-Royal Rumble, I would say Dude Love.
Now, you talking babyface Dude Love, or you talking heel Dude Love that was sucking up to Vince McMahon?
Babyface.
Babyface Dude Love?
Babyface Dude Love, and he's probably not all that serious either, to be fair.
Okay.
But he's still
you know what, because
he's still a main eventer,
because Mankind and Cactus have gotten the lion's share of the notoriety for those 3 personas. I like the idea of putting Dude Love into this match.
All right, let's put him in.
Dude Love Attitude Era for this.
Like, imagine like Dude Love and Shawn Michaels trying to do like an Odd Couple like spot.
Or he tries
like,
to
dude saves Shawn, but Shawn's like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
And then he tries to emulate Shawn by doing the kick, and then
there's like a super kick party with the 2 of the sweet shin music and the super kick.
I know, right?
There would be a nice fun spot there. The love handle. And,
there's some mileage to it,
and there's some mileage. There's some opportunity for like he's Dude Love and he's trying to live out the fantasy of being the ladies' man in this fantasy match, but the darker sides of him are.
They come out at certain points in time in the match.
He's got to like kind of almost pull those parts of him back.
Yeah.
Those intrusive thoughts.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
where he could eventually go to that place where he could be Cactus or Mankind. You know,
that so you can kind of like tease those where maybe he puts that love handle on a little too hard.
Yeah.
And that screech comes out a little bit while he's shoving his fingers down someone's throat, and it's like, oh shit, and then he's kind of like, oh,
or maybe he pulls his hair out like Mankind does. Yeah.
Or he goes for a trash can and he's like,
wait a minute,
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like that. All right. So we've got 20 on the board with 10 left. I'm spinning the wheel right now. Let's see where we are at here.
Statistics say PG era is going to come up here.
Oh, we are at the final Ruthless Aggression.
Final Ruthless Aggression. Okay. So, here's who would be off the board if we don't select them. Ruthless Aggression. Well, no, I'm sorry. We have to go with Shelton Benjamin here. Because he's one guy who will not be on the board anywhere else.
That is a good point.
Because we could put John Cena in PG era.
We could put Randy Orton in PG era.
We can put Randy Orton in PG era.
We could put Brock
Lesnar in PG era. If we wanted to put these guys in the match. But I think
in.
Shelton Benjamin is, like, I mean, for all the reasons, like, he was a signature to Money in the Bank for so many years. Like, you're putting.
And in many ways, too, if you think about it, if you look at some of his past Rumble performances, even though he wasn't. He was the Kofi spot before Kofi did it.
Yes.
Like, but not as like definitive.
Yes, it was more organic. They weren't trying to make it happen every
Exactly.
year.
Like, he had a couple of years where he had some really close calls. And then I remember, I think there were a few years where it was like 2 or 3 years in a row. I think it was like 3 years in a row. Shawn Michaels was the one to eliminate him each and every Royal Rumble match.
And a part of this, too, that still gives it some, it's not just a spot. He's not just a spot guy, is that there was a time when he got to WWE and was on TV where he was considered a prospect. There was a high ceiling for him.
Yeah.
He could main event WrestleMania. Was things that were maybe not said overtly, but
he was a part of that class.
He was highly thought of.
He was in the discussion with Orton and Cena and Batista and Brock and those guys.
And that Shelton Benjamin, along with all of the spots he could put into a Royal Rumble match with all these moving parts, I think is an interesting guy too. Could he win this thing?
Yeah.
Could he shock the world? Could he accelerate his blue chip growth?
Yeah.
In this huge Royal Rumble.
Okay.
To me, it's Shelton Benjamin.
Yeah.
Again, you can't put him anywhere else.
Lock him in.
Like gold standard Shelton Benjamin is not in this match.
No.
It is.
Ain't no stopping me.
It's hot. It's prospect, Team Angle-ish.
Yeah.
Shelton Benjamin.
That singles run that he had.
Prior to Team Angle.
All right. Hitting the board again as you are. Benjamin. Hitting the wheel again as you're putting it on the board. All right. So we got ourselves a Golden Age. Okay.
All right. So for Golden Age right now, we have Andre the Giant, we have Macho Man Randy Savage, and we have Mr. Perfect. I know I advocated for Bret Hart, Hart Foundation Bret Hart. A couple other names that I want to toss out here that I think would be interesting. A mixed bag of names. We'll start with Coco Beware.
Okay.
I just think if he's going to be in a Hall of Fame for no reason, we could put him in a
fantasy
Royal Rumble for no reason.
Put some legitimacy to that Hall of Fame nod.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Then there is the Junkyard Dog. I think would be a nice entrance moment. A little bit of, some dog butts, headbutts with people. There's something there. King Harley Race, because I have such reverence for Harley Race as a performer. I think he would be, even though he would be King Harley Race, he's still a legend. He was still a living legend even then. And then Bret Hart, like I said, I think is another
Bret's
appropriate. And then Hacksaw.
Hacksaw.
Those are probably my candidates for the last two spots.
I'm going to throw a name in there. He's got a role in the match, but it's not a super standout role, but it's one of those roles that like he's, I guess you could say, like, he's a mechanic in the match.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, someone that but he'll be like presented as like a mercenary. Like, he's in there just to do punishment. He ain't necessarily in there to win.
Okay, I think
Haku.
Okay, Haku's a good one.
All right,
Haku
with Andre and Bobby and Perfect. You got the Heenan family in there. They kind of
okay. Haku's a good one.
But I'm if we don't got much left for Golden Age, so I'm kind of leaning towards Bret.
I say Bret.
Yeah.
Because Bret does have a little bit of a mercenary quality to him at that time.
As a heel in the Hart Foundation?
Yeah, like, especially when you look at those Survivor Series and stuff where he's kind of like, he's teaming with people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's that. Just to put it out there, just to say it, because we've been talking Bret, and I think we need to put him on there, but just to throw it out there for not Anvil, Danny Davis.
Huh.
Just a thought.
Okay.
If we want to lock in Bret now and then maybe wrestle with that last spot later with Danny Davis on the board, possibly we can, but Danny Davis.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Danny Davis because I was actually thinking Jimmy Hart. But Jimmy Hart, I remember as a kid watching once I don't know if it was Memphis or if it was a show at Madison Square Garden, but Jimmy Hart won a battle royal from being under the ring the entire time. Okay. And then coming in at the end, and I think he dumped somebody over. I don't remember exactly. I want to say it was Madison Square Garden, but let's just lock Bret in because I think Bret deserves a place in this.
And then we take him off the board because we've been talking about him the whole. This is the Bret Hart episode.
Yeah, Bret. Yeah, exactly. Bret's
plus the Jimmy Hart one is interesting, except I feel like we have that
with Bobby Heenan.
Like,
exactly.
He's finally going to get his ass kicked.
Exactly.
That guy is
exactly
that role has been filled.
Exactly.
So we're going to go Bret Hart.
All right, Bret Hart on the board representing the Golden Age, and up next we have another PG.
Another PG. So this will be our second PG era guy. I think
I think if you're gonna talk about definition of PG, the poster boy, John Cena.
Yeah, I think John Cena's fair.
John Cena, he won 2 Rumbles.
Again, he's got not much else to go in on, and he was in a good amount of Rumbles.
Yes,
even though which is an interesting thing to say, despite everything we've talked about with, like, say, Brett.
Yeah,
he was in a lot of Royal Rumbles, and he also wasn't. That's just also speaks to his longevity.
03, 04, 05, 08, 10, 11, 13. Was he in 15? Was he in 2015?
Nope.
No, he was in the title match with Brock and Rollins.
Yeah, excellent triple threat match, by the way.
17.
One of my favorite triple threat matches.
He was in 18. He was in. Wasn't in 19. Wasn't in 20. Wasn't in 21. Was he in 22? No, wasn't in 20. So his last Royal Rumble match was 2018.
Yep.
When Nakamura won.
Yep.
And I think he was like in the final 4 or 5 or whatever. Okay, so yeah, John Cena PG era. In this, let's remove him, and let's go spin the wheel, make the deal. Okay, we're done with ruthless aggression, right?
Ruthless aggression is off the board.
Okay, so
we've got one more. Just to recap here, we've got one more spot for Golden Age. We've got one more spot for New Generation. We've gotten one more spot for Attitude Era. We've got 3 spots left for PG, and we have 1 spot left for Royal Rumble Virgins.
Okay. We have hit the last New Generation.
The last New Generation. All right. So Brett's obviously gone. Razor's a virgin. HBK, Undertaker, Diesel, Doink. New Generation. So, like, do we go? We've got some beef here. We've got we've got some solid, serious people in HBK, Undertaker, and Diesel. Doink obviously has got a spot. Do we find someone in the generation of occupations? Do we find someone lame?
Ooh.
I feel like we have to find someone lame to put in here, whether it's the Goon or it's
Duke the Dumpster.
Duke the Dumpster. To use that to expand off of Duke, he did win that match on the free for all to become the 30.
Yeah,
that's not historic by any stretch, but at least it was a featured element of that year, 1996.
Yes. By the time he got into the match, they didn't give a shit.
Yeah,
but
no one cared.
no one cared. But
the Dumpster. Again, just rattle off all the Abe Knuckleball Schwartz and Mantar and who's the rock and roll guy, Man Mountain Rock or something.
Man Mountain Rock. New Generation.
The Dean Douglas.
Okay, here's one. Talk occupations. He had a little bit of a run during this era. IRS, the tax man.
It's not a bad one.
I look at him more golden age.
Yeah.
But he did have a little bit of a run.
Okay, there's also, as this is more, I feel like more of a rabbit hole at this point, but we've got another. I know we talked about a favorite of mine, Mink Tatanka. I'm almost okay not having him in the match, but another favorite of mine for a brief period of time, Savio Vega.
Okay.
Or Quang. Could go both ways.
Okay. Savio.
That's another thing too to harp on. There was some rumbles where there were people that weren't even contracted wrestlers to the company that would be these. 1997 had a whole contingent of Mexican wrestlers because they were in San Antonio, and that you had a regional element to it.
94, you had Kabuki and Tenryu. 95, Dick Slater was in that Rumble match.
Yeah, and I almost feel like we might need to.
Well, I think that's where the Rumble Virgins kind of come into play too.
True. But I feel like, especially as the field has been played out, like, do we look at like that invitational element of the Royal Rumble?
Okay,
you know what I mean. Which is again, I don't remember the guy, El Hijo del Santo or Perry Aguayo. I think was in the 1997. Like,
the Latin Lover, Mil Mascaras.
Do we again back to the New Generation?
New Generation.
So that kind of, if you want to go into that element, there's the candidates that would kind of suffice that. I think Quang at the time.
He was a regular on TV.
He was a regular?
Yeah, because he was managed by Harvey Whippleman. It just didn't last long.
Okay. But there is Kabuki.
There's the great Kabuki and Tenryu. Dick Slater. Dirty Dick Slater.
Wasn't No, that Dick Murdoch wasn't in a Royal Rumble.
Dory Funk was in the 96 Royal Rumble.
That's true. Dory Funk was. Yeah. So just a thought here on doing it like that.
Okay.
I'm looking at the field and wondering if those spots could be filled elsewhere. Not in the Virgin spot. We have one more Virgin spot, and I don't know if we want to use it on that.
Yeah.
But we've got 3 PG spots. We've got 1 in Attitude, 1 in Golden, or maybe is there an opportunity to?
Here's one.
Okay.
And I think this would be interesting. It would be an interesting moment in the Royal Rumble match if these two kind of had a moment. What if we put Goldust, New Generation, in the Royal Rumble? The bizarre Goldust. Like, we're talking like very fresh out of the gate Goldust.
I like that. And now,
then
who's the moment with?
Doink.
Ooh.
Doink's got all his tricks up his sleeve, but it doesn't phase the bizarre Goldust. Even Doink gets weirded out by some of the shit that Goldust is going to do in that match.
I'm inclined to go with this because outside of that, like I said, there's either Goldust in my head. There's either Goldust. There's either the occupational route or the local route, the local like invitational route.
Yeah,
but I kind of like Goldust because there's Attitude Era.
I mean, he did have a little bit of a run, Ruthless Aggression, but he was more of a comedy act then.
But the Goldust you're talking about, I think, is the interesting one.
The androgynous Goldust.
I think let's just do Goldust.
Okay.
I think Goldust is the way to go.
Goldust.
Yeah.
Goldust is going to round out the New Generation. So we are done with New Generation on this. So now we got 6 entries left. We got 3 PGs, 1 more Rumble Virgin, 1 more Attitude Era, and 1 more Golden Age. All right. So I'm hitting the wheel now. Let's see what we got that lands on the board, and we are at PG. So who do we put PG? We put Batista and Cena.
Yep.
Okay.
Let's think of who are people that helped define that era. That's a good way to maybe brainstorm. You got people like The Miz.
I was literally just going to say Miz.
Who I think is a good guy to define the PG era.
Mm-hmm.
Kofi Kingston.
That crossed my mind.
Let me think here. So Miz, Kofi,
Jericho. I wouldn't say he defined it, but he had a significant role in when he came back in 2007. He didn't really get the wheels turning until that run with Shawn Michaels in 2008.
Yeah.
It's just an idea. It's just a name thrown out there.
I'm not in love with it.
No, neither am I.
I feel like Attitude Era Jericho is probably most memorable, although that is probably his best angle, to be fair, with Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
That was one of the best
ever.
angles.
That's his best work?
I think it might be.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what? That and the angle he did with Malenko in WCW when he was the Cruiserweight champion.
Oh, excellent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All that Cruiserweight stuff, I would that's probably his defining moments. But anyways.
You know who we left him off the Ruthless Aggression era, and he doesn't really apply to PG, but why wouldn't we have put the Hurricane in the Royal Rumble?
Yeah.
But, I mean, yeah, and I wouldn't put him as a PG guy.
Yeah.
And so
he wasn't around then.
No, he wasn't. Let me think. PG. Hornswoggle? There's a spot there. You know, and there's a moment to happen, the under the ring thing, or
how much beef we got in the match in terms of big guys?
Beef. We got Andre. We got Taker, Diesel, JBL. We'll call him some beef. Batista, John Cena, Lawrence Taylor. So about a third.
Well, I don't consider John Cena a big guy, like a giant. He's more like the Giant Slayer. I'm thinking like big guys like Kane, a Big Show.
Yeah, that's true.
Hell, even a great Khali.
Great Khali.
And he didn't define the PG era, but
No, well, but I mean, it's still worth. He's still a stand. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a standout. Great Khali. Kane.
did we put Orton in?
Orton is not in.
I feel like on fire in 2009, Randy Orton winning the Royal Rumble.
Okay, I think we can do that.
Would have to. He would have to.
I'm ready. I'm good with that. I have nothing against that at all.
Yeah.
I think he's.
For as much as that era was PG, I wouldn't say he wasn't PG, but nothing really changed about Randy Orton's character.
Yeah, let's go with Orton. Unless you.
No, I mean, we talked about it earlier. It's just a name thrown out there. But if you want to lock,
if you want to one of the guys that I wanted to potentially nail down as just a role player, because you're going to have randoms in this match. One or the other, but I'll go with one. Speaking of Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, like from the Legacy, or from the tag team with Hardcore Holly, that brand, 08-09 Cody Rhodes.
Okay,
you could do DiBiase too.
Ted DiBiase Jr. Okay,
just a thought.
Yeah,
again, you need some role players that are just gonna throw some people around.
Yeah,
they're gonna create a spot. But at the same point, you bring up a good omission that we're light on big guys. And from the PG era, okay.
I already kind of know where you're going.
Go.
If you're thinking Phantom Undertaker, then we're doing Kane from the PG era.
Although that's interesting, but I mean, if we kind of have to see if we're going to put stare downs and people in frames, we kind of have to see Andre the Giant and Big Show look at each other.
Yeah, that's always in the discussion. Yeah. Yeah.
Do we do that now because we also, knowing that we have one more Attitude Era spot, which I don't know if I want to give that to.
Not the Big Show.
So I would say do it now.
All right.
PG era Big Show, which could be, Knockout Big Show or Floyd Mayweather Big Show.
Or Jericho Big Show when he was tagged with Jericho.
So I think Big Show's probably the
guy
here. Big Show.
All right.
So we have one more Virgin, two more PGs, and one more Attitude and Golden Age.
All right. Let's hit this wheel, see where we're at. And we have landed on another PG.
Okay. That's cool. So again, we talked about The Miz. We talked about Kofi. I know we talked about R-Truth earlier. PG.
Talked about Santino.
What about just throwing names out there because he just popped in my head for no real reason? Daniel Bryan. He was not in that Royal Rumble that year, when he won the title at WrestleMania.
No, he wasn't.
He was not.
In 2014.
It's a glaring omission.
Yeah. And then in 2015, he got tossed out early, which everybody went bullshit over.
Yep. PG era, do we call Bray Wyatt a PG era wrestler? I mean, I would say probably not based on who he is. And he wouldn't define an era. In fact, he in many ways helped kind of move us to another era.
Yeah.
The new era, right?
The network era, I think, I want to say.
Well, I know in 2016 they were harping on the new era when Roman won the belt after WrestleMania, and he had that match with AJ Styles at Backlash the following month, and I remember that was verbiage used. We're ushering in the new era.
Yeah, that's true.
Not on here, so there is no new era.
Yeah.
But Bray Wyatt's career was largely, 13, 14, 15, like that.
Yep.
Closer more to the best of him was not the PG era.
Correct.
Unless we did Husky Harris, who would be a mercenary bit player guy. Who would check a box, a Nexus Husky Harris guy. While we're still in that group, you could talk about Justin Gabriel.
Heath Slater.
Michael Tarver. Just again now we're throwing in what you would call more extras into the match that just would be in the match that aren't winning. Here's one. This definitely marks PG era, probably the end of the PG era. Axelmania.
Curtis Axel?
Yeah.
Michael McGillicuddy?
No, Curtis Axel. Axelmania. Remember when he didn't get into the Rumble and they ran that whole couple month little story?
No, he didn't get eliminated from the Rumble.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Curtis Axel running into his father, Mr. Perfect, in the Royal Rumble match, father and son from the PG era. Oof. Now, are we just putting some of these guys in to create these moments, or is there going to be
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
We got to justify them in some respect. Or it could be Curtis Axel, the failed attempt to make him a star with Triple H.
With Paul Heyman.
That whole thing, and gave him Triple H a concussion, and pretty much there's that version.
He was
too.
done after that. I'll be honest with you, I'm not married to the idea.
That's fine. We don't have to go further with it. Zack Ryder.
Zack Ryder's another one. Trying to think. PG era. I like the idea of Miz.
Now, and here's the thing: I'm also thinking we could narrow down the PG era to the best of the best, because we're at two more spots here. The best of the PG era, the most volume of the PG era.
If you're doing that, then
just to narrow some things down, just for discussion purposes.
Instead of doing variety, yeah.
Well, no, not even that. Just I'm talking timeline wise. So,
okay.
To me, the PG era got a little less PG probably when Punk dropped his pipe bomb. It's probably when it started.
2011,
it peaked there. Is probably when when we started calling it the PG era.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So let's just say, just to find a time frame to dig into for a minute here, pre-Punk pipe bomb, Miz is definitely a guy who falls under that time frame. Zack Ryder, not so much.
Now you're looking for what kind of player are you looking for here?
Whoever's available to really kind of.
Orton's still on the table,
right? So there's Orton. I had the name escaped me. I had it.
Orton, Edge, Kane. Trying to think who else was involved in that era. Orton, Edge, Kane, Sheamus, even. You could make an argument. I like the Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan and Eddie Guerrero started at number 1 and number 2 in the Royal Rumble match.
That's not bad. That's not bad at all.
That's got some legs to it. Rey Mysterio.
He's probably more ruthless.
Yeah.
But noted.
Tricky one, huh? We got Batista, Cena,
Big Show.
Big Show. With 2 left.
Batista, Cena, Big Show. You know what? I think he's going to be a guy who, if you kind of built a movie poster of the era that you're going to put on there, you're probably going to put Santino on there. That's another way I feel like you can look at this too.
Okay.
Like, if you're creating like WWE PG era the movie,
yeah,
John Cena's going to be front and center. Batista's going to flank him on one side.
Largely a part of it. Okay.
Big Show will be on that poster too.
You need some let me up.
Santino is a guy like we talked about with Hacksaw. Hacksaw is a guy you talk about when you talk about the golden era of WWE.
Yeah.
When you talk about the PG era of WWE, you're going to talk about.
He was in a lot of stuff. Yeah.
You're going to talk about Santino.
You need some comedy, and I think he can provide that.
I think Santino's a good spot here.
Okay. All right, let's lock him.
PG era.
Yeah, let's lock him in there. Santino Marella for the PG era of this Build-A-Rumble, which leaves us 1 spot left. So we're down to Rumble Virgin.
We have one spot everywhere except for New Generation and Ruthless Aggression.
All right, so let's hit this wheel here. See who we got. We're down to the final 4, and we are at Attitude Era.
Okay. Attitude Era, I think you kind of have to look at. Okay, Dude Love, Austin, China, Taka. I feel like we have a good amount of athletes that are going to do some things. Like a guy like Shane McMahon may not necessarily be on the cards here.
Or Billy Gunn. He was considered very athletic during that time period.
You probably don't need a Billy Gunn. I think, again, representative of the era. You're going to talk about people like Vince McMahon. You're going to talk about
The Rock.
maybe The Rock. Of course, not maybe. The Rock. Triple H.
Yeah.
Even. In the same way that Santino is to PG, you're going to talk about Al Snow. Al Snow was a guy.
Yeah. The Godfather.
The Godfather.
Hell.
He had some Rumble spots with all the hoes and all that. Before you get to that thought, two guys that come to mind. Well, not two guys, but it opens up a genre. Ken Shamrock, Steve Blackman. There's a whole hardcore element that we haven't even.
Crash Holly.
Crash Holly. Yeah.
Hardcore Holly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You even talk about Kane with Paul Bearer. You know?
Yeah. Again, this is the last spot.
Yeah.
Are we okay with maybe The Rock not being on it? Are we okay with Triple H maybe not being? Triple H would have a slight possibility at PG era.
Yeah.
But
he was part-timer by that point. But still, he worked it.
I mean, like DX and, and all the different iterations of that. And,
Yeah.
I mean,
if we were to...
09 WrestleMania.
Yeah.
So there's a Triple H to ponder. But Kane is a hard one to leave off, to be very honest, if we're going to go look through. Because I think Kane does cover some hardcore in terms of just the stuff that he was mixed up in.
And you also brought it up earlier, too. That moment when he got the record of the most guys eliminated in a single Rumble match, that was when he was in the Attitude Era.
Yeah. I think it's Kane.
Yeah.
I think it's Kane.
Yeah, we can lock Kane in.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
It's going to be Kane. I think you don't other ones are omittable.
Yeah.
Are more omittable than Kane.
All right.
So
3 left here.
3 left.
What do we got? We got our last Rumble Virgin. Our last Royal Rumble Virgin.
So we talked about for Virgins, we talked about Chuck Norris, we talked about
Shaq.
We talked about we've added some beef here. You got Big Show and Kane in this match.
Yeah.
By the way.
Andre.
And JBL
Diesel.
and Andre and Diesel.
So we got a fair amount of big guys.
You can call beef.
Yeah.
He's
Batista.
But yeah, we get there's a lot of side. I think we helped fill that part of the shelf up.
Yeah.
So Virgin wise. Now, there's a couple categories we could dive into. We could dive into the celebrity category, like we talked about Chuck Norris and Lance Armstrong and Shaq. You know what I mean? So outside of wrestling. Then there is, which we already kind of dove into, the pre-WWE with Michael Hayes. Not a...
Guys who've never been...
Yeah, never
We
were.
talked Brody. We talked...
Yeah, because and then we talk about a guy who was in a couple of these eras, but never got into a match in Razor. So I feel like we've really had a good variety for the Virgins. So I propose picking someone, this might be going against some sort of cardinal rule on kicking out at 2 here, but is there someone in today's wrestling landscape who has never wrestled in a Royal Rumble that you could almost, he's not the main character, but he's going into the time machine to enter this match, that's never been in a Royal Rumble before? Can we find, is there someone in today's, we'll say, post-COVID wrestling landscape in WWE who's never wrestled in a Royal Rumble match that we could, that is our to give some story, like he's
First person that came to mind?
He's our Marty McFly.
Oh. Well, I was thinking Solo Sikoa.
Okay, Solo's an option.
Yeah.
Let's make, he's He's an option.
Rumble Virgin.
And since we're talking about people who weren't in WWE, this kind of opens it up to like an AEW guy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, or someone in Japan.
Yep.
Or something like that. Impact.
Having some kind of international flavor to the match has always been appealing. Maybe somebody like a Kazuchika Okada.
Okay, I'm thinking we talk about stepping into a time machine. There is also Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
It's Kenny Omega.
I'm not against that. I'm not against Omega. Trying to see who else in AEW currently that I think would fare well in this type of match. I know he's not one of your favorites, but because he's very unorthodox.
I think I know who you're going to say.
Eddie Kingston.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. See, like, I'm almost looking at it like this is the person we're seeing the match through now.
See, I'm not looking at that like
that's
like
fine.
that
That's
way.
fine. That's fine.
But
so, let me think. Who else? We've just opened up the Pandora's box here. The one present day person. Solo seems like a really good idea.
MJF. Even though even though the signing, the War of 24 really is not centered around him. I mean,
that's a really good one.
He's going to be
incredibly topical. It's relatable.
He's going to be the future of the industry if he's, you know what I mean? He's the present now in some regard.
I like that one.
I
like that one.
That stands out as variety. He's from another organization currently.
It's variety. It's topical, even though we're not here to be topical.
Yeah.
But like I said, in the silo that we've jumped
down, it's that forbidden door that everybody's talking about.
And again, like, we have a fuck ton of variety in the Virgin category. Again, a wrestler who just never happened to make it.
Yeah.
Razor. A non-wrestler who, again, checks the I want to see him get his ass kicked in Bobby Heenan.
Yeah.
A guy who never had a chance to be in a Royal Rumble in Michael Hayes.
Yeah.
And then a celebrity. That is a
Taylor.
potpourri.
Yeah.
So I think MJF's
let's do it.
That one.
Let's do it. I like it. I like it a lot. MJF, part of the Rumble Virgin category, which
is even more ironic because that's like something you would hear him like use as a diss.
Yeah.
Being a virgin.
So, all right, so we've landed on our last PG. So
last PG. So last PG.
Cena, Batista, Big Show, Santino.
So Cena, Batista kind of puts you in like these guys define the era type of category, right? Big Show.
Stare down for Andre.
Yeah, Santino kind of like the comedy bit.
To let me up.
Now, do we have I think you talk about like a utility guy a little bit. You talk about kind of a interchangeable parts guy. There's a Kofi Kingston case to be made here.
Miz.
Miz, I think, is a very strong one because I think he defines this era as much as almost anybody.
Yep.
Daniel Bryan is another one. Now, if we're going to talk about spots, like you talked about, imagine Eddie and
Bryan opening it.
Right. If we don't have... I like that type of moment as well. Like putting two
studs that have never hooked up before.
Two names,
yeah.
or like the two like parts,
yeah,
or a fantasy,
of
sorts. Whether it's a fantasy as wrestlers or a fantasy as draw cards,
yeah.
If you were to do it from the workman's angle with an Eddie, you also have Perfect that he could go 1 and 2 with, theoretically, if we were picking in that vein.
Okay.
Shawn Michaels.
So
there are no shortage of people that he could go toe to toe with in a fantasy. Like, oh my God, these are the numbers 1 and 2.
Yep.
So
Maybe so. Does that eliminate Bryan, and then you could slot Miz in that fifth role? Is that where you're kind of going at?
Theoretically, so then that at least I feel like we could take Bryan off the table and talk more
that makes
about
sense.
Miz. We can talk about Kofi.
That makes sense.
Is there other people that we could talk about? Do we talk about maybe we're talking about getting people in the same frame together? PG era, Beth Phoenix. I know we didn't talk about not putting. I know we mentioned not putting another woman on, but there is China.
Yeah.
That could tell the story of the evolution of women. You know what I mean? How far they've come. That can be sprinkled into her inclusion into the Royal Rumble.
Okay.
As well as appetizing that fantasy matchup. There's so like I said, Miz, Kofi, Beth Phoenix, PG era. PG era. I'm also just looking at the other eras and trying to see like, okay, like who would I could see like from PG matching up with these guys. Let me see here. PG era.
So are you eliminating Randy Orton from the discussion? Because he's come up a few times.
No, I haven't. I don't think he's off the table. So that's another one. Miz, Kofi, Beth Phoenix, Randy Orton. Let's talk about Rumble winners in that time frame. We talked about Cena. We've got Orton. We've got Edge.
Del Rio.
Sheamus
1 and 12, Cena 1 and 13.
Yeah, and then 14
was Batista.
So that's more or less the era. 15 was what's it called? Roman. And it's like new fresh out of the Shield Roman. It's not
it's not Tribal Chief Roman, yeah.
We already locked it in. But could have that been a virgin? Tribal Chief Roman?
That could have been.
And that would have been even better, I think.
That could have been. Yeah, we locked MJF in, but
we can't go back.
But there's always next year.
That would have been the ideal step into the time machine, the main character of the show today.
Yeah.
Cementing his legacy as the real GOAT against all of this, right? But MJF is kind of ascending to that, so like that I think is a great story to be able to possibly tell. This lifelong fan of the WWE, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I think it still plays well, so I don't regret it.
I keep going back to Miz.
I think Miz is a good one.
I really keep going back to Miz.
It takes Orton off the board altogether. Just bear that in mind.
Yeah.
We don't need a Kofi. We've got a Shelton.
I was gonna say too.
We've got Eddie. We've got Taka. We've got some.
But you also at the same time you don't even need
Savage.
Miz. You don't even need Miz because you have like the chicken shit heel and like a JBL.
Yeah.
Miz is going to play that
true.
in that type of a situation, in a scenario.
True. So what are we missing from the PG era though? So that's where we got to look at it from. The PG, kind of something that stands out in the PG era that helps define it, as well as like what the match needs.
Yeah.
What the match could use. What could be beneficial with that person. What does that person bring to the table? Which is why I think Beth Phoenix is standing tall right now as we talk about this. But I'm open to...
You also said, too, earlier, like a mercenary... like a utility kind of mechanic.
Somewhat nameless.
Like not nameless, but someone that... Like a henchman, somebody to assist.
Yep.
You mentioned Cody or DiBiase in that kind of a role from Legacy in 2009. That's not a bad idea. I might lean towards Cody, and if that's something that we're looking at from or we go dashing Cody Rhodes.
That's not bad either.
Chosen One, Drew McIntyre.
Ooh, that's not a bad one at all. Ooh.
That was like him being put in that spot during that era was people's. I mean, I don't remember fans being too thrilled with it because they had like McMahon behind it, and they thought like that Chosen One thing really kind of like pegged him, separated him from everybody else, and then eventually over time that became part of his story when he returned back, was that he was pegged as this chosen one. But does he define PG though? That's the thing.
Yeah.
That's where I go back to Miz.
Yeah.
Miz could also here's the great part about that, right? I said earlier, well, we don't need a chicken shit heel because you have someone like a JBL. Okay, Santino has a little bit of comedy. Let me up, right? Mm-hmm. Miz could also be that comedic in the heel sense. Maybe an early elimination. Like
he could eat it. He could eat it and it won't hurt him.
Exactly.
But at the same time, we say JBL checks chicken shit. I don't think JBL checks chicken shit as much as we want him to. He's also like a fucking rotten man.
Yeah.
Like he's a rotten man.
He's like a shrewd,
Yeah, he's the whole like, while there is stuff that's funny and kind of like, oh, that's real slimy, he's like a rotten dude, like a bully.
Yeah, that's So
there are those variances between the two where I think Miz is more chicken shit even than JBL.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Miz is also kind of a piece of shit too.
Yeah.
So.
He's a piece of shit in different ways.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm kind of leaning back towards Miz.
I think, again, when you produce the movie WWE PG, he's going to be on the poster.
Oh yeah, I mean, look at
headlined WrestleMania.
He headlined WrestleMania as the
PG
champion.
Era.
Yes, as the champion. They did a video package, which was probably one of the best video packages they ever did with Nas's "He Hate Me Now" song in the background, about his journey and his story to get to where he was.
100%.
I mean, and that was the heart of, not the heart, but that was like that was a main focal point of that era, was his growth.
Absolutely.
As a performer. All right, so we've locked in Miz from the PG era. So now
here's another, just to add some color. Is it Miz with stunt double Sandow coming into the match?
No, it's Miz with Alex Riley.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine, great.
Yeah.
The accessory can be used for the match.
Yes, exactly. It's
I
Miz,
like that.
It's Miz with Alex.
Okay.
Or it could even be Miz with John Morrison.
Okay.
But I
Miz prefer Riley.
Yeah, I prefer Riley as well.
But yeah. Okay. So we have one last spin here, and it's for the Golden Era.
The Golden Age, yes. So who do we got for the Golden Age? We got Savage, Andre,
Perfect, and Brett. Heart Foundation Brett. So we've already got Hogan.
Yep.
That's just who we're all gonna think about.
Yeah.
We've already got. I'm also thinking like, Flair wouldn't count. Well, would he?
He was 92.
91.
91, 92. It would be hard to leave him off of this. But all right, let's look at here.
Flair's a name. We'll stick with Flair.
Flair's a name. I think Piper's a name you could put in there. I think Warrior. Okay. Duggan.
That's right. We did talk about Duggan.
Talked about Duggan.
Not crucial, but
from a historical standpoint,
it plugs in.
It makes sense. We mentioned Rick Rude earlier.
Golden Age. Jimmy Snuka.
That's not a bad one.
Just trying to go maybe a little bit further back. Does the Iron Sheik get in here?
Oh, Bubba. Jake the Snake.
A snake spot where I almost like that one just for the spot. He does the snake spot, and all of these pure legends of WWE multiverse history all share at least one thing in common, if they're all different, is that they're afraid of snakes, which is what speaks to Jake the Snake's. And if you're making a Golden Era poster, making a movie, he's cast. There's a casted role for him.
He's on it. Okay.
I almost think you got to go Jake the Snake Roberts.
All right, let's do it. I like that. Jake the Snake Roberts to round out the golden era of the Royal Rumble. So, all right, let's break. So let's run off the list here.
All right, give me 1 second while I tabulate. Jake Roberts. Not Jake Roberto, Jake Roberts. All right.
All right, so break down this field. Let's go. What do we got here? The final 30 of the Kicking Out at 2 Build-A-Royal Rumble.
So from the Golden Age, we have Andre the Giant, the Macho Man Randy Savage, Mr. Perfect, the one half of the Hart Foundation's Bret the Hitman Hart, and Jake the Snake Roberts. For the new generation, we have the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. We have the Undertaker, specifically the Phantom of the Opera version Undertaker. And by Phantom of the Opera, I mean the mask that he wore.
This was after King Mabel and Yokozuna crushed his face on an episode of Monday Night Raw.
Yes. And then we've got Evil Doink the Clown. We've got Diesel, Big Daddy Cool Diesel, or we didn't really specify as that, or Bodyguard Diesel.
I think he was more defined than the new generation. If we're talking about what embodies and represents, then we're talking about Big Daddy Cool. At least in my opinion.
That's fair. We just never went deep with it. Then we talk about early Goldust, like very right out of the gate, androgynous, creepy Goldust. Then we move over to the Attitude Era, where we bring in Chyna, the one woman who made this match of the small handful that participated in it. Mm-hmm. We've got Taka Michinoku.
Just for the purpose of seeing him.
Just to see him and repeat the Royal Rumble 2000 spot, but also of light heavyweight championship fame and Kaientai fame.
Indeed.
Then there is Stone Cold Steve Austin, who currently still holds the record as having won the most Royal Rumbles at 3. 1997, 1998, and 2001.
That's right.
And then Dude Love makes the cut.
Ow,
of all the various Mick Foley characters. That is the one we chose. And then we have Kane, who for a long time held the record for the most eliminations in a single Royal Rumble match, which I believe was 11 or 12.
God, I want to say
it was something like that.
Yeah,
I think it was 12.
Yeah, it might have been 11 or 12. And I think, Roman break it at like
2014?
He broke it in 2014, but he broke it by 1, right?
Yeah.
And then I think Brock broke it. Or he might have tied.
I think, one of the, I'm not sure exactly.
In 2020, he might have tied it or broke it by 1, too. But anyways.
So then we move over to Ruthless Aggression, where we've got JBL, the longest reigning champion in SmackDown history, which I guess is no longer the case, as Roman Reigns has surpassed him.
Yeah.
We've got Eddie Guerrero, classic Eddie Guerrero of the Ruthless Aggression era, lowrider and all.
Yeah.
We've got Hollywood Hulk Hogan of red and yellow babyface variety. This is we've
2002. He just came back.
Yeah, he had the
coming
WWE
off the
championship run,
coming off the match with The Rock at WrestleMania. Hulkamania was reborn.
What's old is new again.
Yep, but he brought a little bit of that Hollywood flavor to it. Yep.
And then we've got Christian. At last, he is on his own, and he is here.
I like that.
That version of Christian, although this version that like we said earlier, is probably most the Jericho, Christian, Trish 03 version.
I'd say like 03 to 05.
Yeah, that area.
Like 05 when he was starting to like really come like into his own, and like they were teasing him with Cena, like right before he left to go to TNA.
Yeah, so last couple years in the Ruthless Aggression era. And then Blue Chipper Shelton Benjamin makes the list as, I mean, if you talk about a moment that personifies Ruthless Aggression, it would, that spot on Raw. That's
the super kick. Shawn Michaels catches him in midair. Yeah. It makes all the highlight
beating
reels.
Triple H, on a Raw.
That's right.
So Shelton
beating
Benjamin,
Jericho at the first Taboo Tuesday
again,
for the Intercontinental title.
A Shelton Benjamin that had a high ceiling and high hopes from all of us.
Yeah.
As a youngster way back when, makes the list here and would be full of tons of different types of moments and spots amongst this field. Then we talk about the PG era moving along nicely, and to start, we go with probably the two pillars of that era, John Cena and Batista, being people that were going to be in this match. Of course, in that era, they both won two Royal Rumbles.
You know what? I'm
sorry. Batista won one in the Ruthless Aggression.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you about Batista being a pillar during that PG era, because Batista was hurt for a period of time, and he had left like roughly around 2010. but even though we've considered 2014 to kind of still be a part of that PG era, I really feel like he was a pillar more in the ruthless aggression era when he came into his own in the singles when he beat Triple H at that WrestleMania.
Okay, I guess maybe pillar wasn't the word, but he's more like what Savage was to Hogan in the Golden Age, Batista was to Cena in the PG era.
Yeah, because that, you know what, that's a great way to look at it, because that was the sticking point when Batista and Cena finally wrestled at WrestleMania that year. Okay, that's a great way to look at it. So
Batista and John Cena, the two biggest names of that era, probably. The Big Show, you know, and we're talking Jericho, Miz Show, Knockout Artist, Big Show, WMD, or whatever they called him, Big Show. And then, of course, another character, Santino Marella, you know, jealous boyfriend Santino, you know, that
Cobra
era.
Santino.
Yeah, Cobra Santino.
Yep. Need a little let me up, some comedy in the match.
And then a very, you know, if you talk about build a superstar to fit the PG era, The Miz, I think, was certainly one who will round out the PG bucket of wrestlers. And then we talk about our Royal Rumble virgins. Again, these are people who've never wrestled in a Royal Rumble before, and we have a nice variety here, starting off with Razor Ramon and his time in WWE from late 92 to 1996. He had never wrestled in a Royal Rumble. Had participated in and was on cards in different singles matches, but never actually in the 30-man Royal Rumble match.
Correct.
Bobby the Brain Heenan has sent many of his wrestlers down to the ring to participate and eliminate people in Royal Rumbles, but himself, he was never in one, as he's not a wrestler. So why not see the man that so many wanted to get his ass kicked in a Royal Rumble match? Let him get tossed around a little bit. A wrestler from much further along of yesteryear, the territorial days, Michael P.S. Hayes of Freebird fame. I mean, I think that's just a very sound pick. I like that a lot. Very smart thinking man's wrestler with a group to kind of flank him out. And I think he would fit well in a field with different wrestling legends. And then we kind of picked here a celebrity. And this celebrity probably has the most acclaim of any celebrity in the history of wrestling, if you think about it from the standpoint that he main evented a WrestleMania.
Yep.
That would be like John Cena winning a Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yep.
So that would be Lawrence Taylor. And Lawrence Taylor, having done that, puts it where his time in WWE began at a Royal Rumble.
Yes.
Makes that a fitting inclusion on his end. And then we kind of went with a weird one at the end here that I think was a very appropriate one, with all of these different people pulled from all these different years and eras and months and phases of their careers. We decided, why don't we find someone who's never wrestled in a Royal Rumble, who is currently operating in the wrestling landscape today, and we decided to land with Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF of AEW fame, the once former AEW World Heavyweight Champion. He gets to enter the perfectly built Royal Rumble and collide with all these different wrestlers that he grew up watching, idolizing, imitating, and imaginating. Yeah, I think we created a nice little masterpiece here.
Nice stacked little Royal Rumble there. I like it. I dig it. We'll have the list of participants up on our social media for all of you to take a look at. But of course, thank you all so very much. Press and play, hitting download, liking, subscribing, rating, and reviewing. This has been a lot of fun. Before we go, though, before we put this one down for the 3 count, or should I say, before we throw the show over the top rope and hopefully both of its feet hit the floor, we're talking Royal Rumble. As of this recording, Roman Reigns is scheduled to defend the WWE Championship against LA Knight, Randy Orton, and AJ Styles. We have a men's Rumble. We have a women's Rumble. Logan Paul against Kevin Owens for the United States title. And hanging in that space of discussion as we are in the early stages of WrestleMania season is The Rock's most recent appearance on television, pretty much calling out the tribal chief, Roman Reigns. Give me your quick picks on who's going to win the 2 title matches and the 2 Rumbles, and your thoughts on what direction you think they're going in with The Rock.
What I think, what I think and what I want are two different things.
Okay.
Or what I want is for Cody to finish the story.
Yep.
And I want him to win the Royal Rumble because I don't think it's too much of a... I don't think it's too repetitive. I think it makes sense. And I want him to get that match with Roman by winning the Royal Rumble. But the noise is strong for The Rock.
Yeah.
So what I think is still very much in play is WrestleMania and with The Rock and Roman. And maybe Cody's involved in that too, but Rock and Roman, I think of it from the business side of it. You're talking about increasing sponsorship dollars. You're talking about all those things. The tickets are sold and paid for. The people are going to watch, right?
Yeah.
But you're talking about the other elements of the business that WWE has been looking to level up on.
Yeah.
And someone like The Rock is going to be a perfect selling point for the company's biggest show of the year, biggest show of all time. The first WrestleMania in the TKO Endeavor leadership era of WWE control.
A non-McMahon.
Yeah,
first
WrestleMania. This is their crack at it. And while it might make more sense to do it at, say, Elimination Chamber, where I think would be great, and it has tons of business sense involved in that too, that I think is no secret to most. I think you're going to see it at WrestleMania.
You know what? I'm with you. What I want Cody to finish his story. I don't want him to win the Rumble, okay? But I think that they can get there with him and Roman somehow. Mm-hmm. Yes, there is a lot of noise for Rock and Roman, but I also think that because of this new leadership that they are under with TKO and Endeavor, that they're going to try different. TKO and Endeavor, they know that WrestleMania eyeballs are going to be on that show because the tickets are sold. Okay, they know that under the leadership of Nick Khan, from a corporate standpoint, that they know that show is going to be a success financially for them because it is an established brand. Okay, what I think that they're trying to do is they're trying to establish these, as what us fans call these B shows.
Yeah.
To be on the same level as WrestleMania. Yep. Here's a few factors. You and I have discussed this in private, but it bears mentioning publicly on this podcast. Perth, Australia, apparently has a large Samoan contingent, large Samoan community. Okay, Rock and Roman both being of Samoan descent. Okay, having this match take place. And that stadium has already sold 50,000 tickets. From what
it's like capacity of like 60 or 70.
They have 60 or 70, depending on the production configuration, if they do a big elaborate stage or if they do like a small entrance like they've been doing at some of these more recent PLEs like Survivor Series, where they try to get as many bodies in the building as possible. I think that's kind of the route that they are going to go in for this show because they know that people are going to... Australia never gets a major show like this.
Right.
So... I think they're banking on people showing up. You have this large Samoan contingent. The Australian government has allegedly negotiated to include Rock into this show. They have been part of this process. They've campaigning for it. I don't know if they fronted up money financially to get him a part of it, but they've been in the discussion. It's not just here, we want your show and whoever's on it. They wanted to dictate his involvement in the show as well, allegedly. Okay? His involvement in this show, I think, sets the table, pun completely intended, for these international PLEs to be major money makers, if not more so for them to remove the stigma of them being B shows.
Exactly. No,
and putting them on that level of a Royal Rumble and a WrestleMania. Okay? I think that there's room to do both.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
I think there's room to do Roman and Rock in a non-title affair at the Elimination Chamber in Perth, Australia, in front of this large Samoan community. Draw a big house. Now, a lot of fans, I had an argument with somebody on Twitter about this morning. They were of the argument that more people are going to watch it at WrestleMania because it's WrestleMania. And Rock wouldn't come back to do a bullshit B-level show or whatever. Mainly because of the time zone difference. They're 14 or 16 hours ahead of us. So if this is a live show, we're going to be watching that on a Saturday morning at like 8 o'clock in the morning.
No, like 4:30 or 5.
Okay.
Yeah, but
But I don't think that WWE, Endeavor, TKO, that they are in that they care much about the live views as opposed to the overall streaming and how many.
It's like a 24-hour next day. Like
it's not like pay-per-view where it's like how many people watch the live broadcast and you know what I mean. How many pay-per-view buy rates again? I don't think that that's of concern to that.
I tend to agree with you,
okay,
absolutely.
so I think that
it's a more holistic view of it. It's not
the time zone. I don't think that's on their radar because they know that if it's Rock and Roman, people are going to watch no matter what.
I'll wake
whether
up
it's
early for that.
Either we wake up early for it or we wake up at a normal time and watch it later. You know what I mean? Regardless of what the results are, regardless of the spoilers, you're going to watch it. Yep. So I don't think that is in the discussion. I agree with you on that. I think there's room for Rock and Roman, non-title, and I think there's room for Roman and Cody at WrestleMania. If you think about it, Roman finally beats this mountain that he's been trying to climb for so long in The Rock, okay? And now he's presented as this unstoppable juggernaut heading into WrestleMania against the guy that he had already defeated a year prior, screwed him over, okay, in Cody Rhodes. Cody's trying to finish his story.
Yep.
It makes Cody's victory and his story that much sweeter at the end if he not only gets his redemption on the guy that screwed him last year, takes his title and dethrones him and ends his record title reign, and beats the guy that beat The Rock. Okay?
Absolutely.
Beats the guy that The Rock couldn't beat. All right? So that's where I think there's still room for Rock to be a part of WrestleMania. Now, does that necessarily mean that maybe Roman wrestles both nights?
I mean, yeah, I guess
it's possible, but I don't think
it's necessary.
I don't think it's necessary. I still think there's room for Rock to be a part of the story. And Rock and here's the other thing too. A lot of people are banking on Rock's comments on Pat McAfee's show a while back where he said that he'd be available for WrestleMania. Okay, that was also during the Hollywood actors strike and the writers strike.
Right.
Okay, now a lot of these studios are trying to catch up on what they lost in production.
Yeah, they're starting up again.
Okay, so maybe Rock and Roman at Chamber is strictly for a scheduling purpose because he's not available for WrestleMania, even though he said he was at that time. Now he still could be at the same time too.
Absolutely.
All right,
because who's to say that? Like, I mean, back in September when he said that like he was on strike, but hey, as a striking employee.
This could change in a few months.
Well, a striking employee could just say, you know what, I'm gonna go. I have to eat. I have to go make money.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go and look for work.
Yeah.
And he could theoretically do that.
He could dangle that in front of a producer or whatever.
Or just do it, and then when they decide that they got to call people back, Rock could say, well,
I got this booked for April.
Hey, when we are on strike, I booked this. Sorry, guys.
Exactly.
I don't know how that works from a
business perspective,
but that's just a possibility.
Yeah, it's very possible.
Like I said, I want to see the match more at Elimination Chamber because I don't think it needs to happen at WrestleMania. The only difference with everything you said that I agree with, everything I want to see it that way, is you might as well just put the belt on the line. I don't think the predictability element of it matters at this point anymore. Furman's already going to win. You know, we're like I've talked to you about before. Like it's the challenge is going to be to make us think that The Rock could win, and that's going to be the moments and the details in the near falls.
Now here's
the close calls. That's going to matter because to me, Roman can't call himself the head of the table. Could never call himself the head of the table until he was the champion. You know what I mean? Like,
and therefore, if someone's going to challenge him to be the head of the table, then he's probably going to have to feel inclined to put the title on the line against The Rock.
I think from a storytelling device, like head of the table to us doesn't mean anything because we're not a part of the family. We don't sit at the table. That matters to people in the quote unquote family.
Yep.
But how that's transferred to something relatable is through the belt.
Yeah.
So to me, the belt matters in that element. It's not, I don't want to say crucial because I do think you have strong enough players to not have the belt included, but you might as well just have it included if you're going to talk about a family power struggle, which is what they're kind of indicating is the contention.
Yep.
So to me, the belt, knowing he's going to win anyways, we're going to get the fantasy, we're going to get the dream.
Yeah.
We're going to get the big money, the crowd, and all of everything else that comes with it. You might as well just put the belt on the line, and that's just the sprinkles on top of the sundae.
Now we're going
to taste bad without it.
No, we're going a little bit past Rumble here because, like I said at the beginning, Roman's scheduled to face LA Knight, Randy Orton, and AJ Styles in a fatal 4-way. There's some unpredictability in that sense too, because if it's a fatal 4-way and the champ doesn't have to get pinned,
that would be a criminal way for him to this title reign to end.
Yeah.
It'd be criminal.
Yeah.
All this hard work you've done
Yeah.
for 3.5 years.
Yep.
If they were to take
just so they can appease that contingent that wants Cody to finish his
Yeah.
story and Rock and Roman to not be for the title.
Yeah, that would be like, what are you doing? What are
Yeah.
we doing here then?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if he's going to lose the belt, he needs to get pinned.
Yes, exactly.
You know
And I
what
think,
mean?
and
this isn't just any title reign.
no, it's not. It's the greatest one of this modern era. I mean,
Of our lifetimes.
Yeah, I mean, I lived through Hogan's and stuff like that.
Fair.
So of this modern era, absolutely
So
better
to
than
me,
any
you
Punk
wouldn't
and Cena
end-
and Brock
you
title
wouldn't
reign and all
end-
this.
You wouldn't end it by having Randy Orton pin LA
No.
Knight. You just wouldn't. It's
No.
not, it would be
But
borderline criminal.
but because they've been good lately at throwing you a curveball creatively, do you think that there's a slight chance, as we're talking about this, that Roman does lose the title at the Rumble?
I don't
For
think
for the sake of for this, I know it sounds crazy, but for the sake of surprising everybody and giving us that unpredictability that you shouldn't expect Roman and Rock to be for the title.
well, as we
But we don't even know when
as
that
we
match
sit
is
here
booked.
the day after they made the 4-way official.
Yeah.
that is literally the objective. I would say from a
Yeah.
creative standpoint, we have to now,
To get us talking.
We have to now write the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks of TV.
Yeah.
to make people interested in the possibility, albeit slight, that he could lose.
Yeah.
that is the challenge.
Yep.
Which is why I like the idea of Roman having the belt in the first place, on top of the storyline device that it gives to the head of the table stuff. Is that's the challenge for him and Rock.
Yeah.
The creative people involved is, can The Rock beat him?
Yeah.
For the title. Why can't he? Let's make it let's put it on the table.
Yeah.
For the lack of a better word.
Do you think Rock makes an appearance
at the Royal Rumble?
anytime before? You think?
At the Royal Rumble, I think is where he levels up the ante in terms of, the response given.
So I would imagine that match, if Rock's going to make an appearance, that match is probably going to close the show.
Yeah, definitely. I
Yeah,
would say so.
that 4 would close the show.
I would say you probably close the show out after Roman's escaped, whether it's clean or not.
Yeah,
He's still the champion. He beat the 3 guys.
they face off.
Rock shows up and whether
now
he
here's
shows
the
up,
thi- here's
whether
the-
it's a rock
here's the thing
bottom
with-
or it's at the ramp or
Yeah.
whatever, he shows up and he lays the gauntlet down. Like he not that he doesn't maybe open up with a challenge, but if he's showing up again and he's confronting Roman, it's on.
Yeah.
know
Well,
what I
yeah, absolutely. But being that it's Royal Rumble, and usually at Royal Rumble they unveil the big WrestleMania sign that's so they can all point to it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't help but wonder if that's gonna if that's what he's going to.
Well, I think
he's going to signal.
Well, I think that would depend on what happens in the men's match. Let's
Yeah.
just say.
All right, so
Let's just say CM Punk wins the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
And then he pops on the microphone and says, like, Rollins, I'm coming for you. Like,
Yeah.
right there, right after.
Then
it
you
happens,
already
he's-
know.
He's sucking wind and I'm coming for you. So
Yeah.
now you already know. Now
Yeah.
the opening for a Rock to lay that challenge down in that moment, that night,
yeah.
is there. Mm-hmm. So that I think would be an interesting thing to see if
So you're-
WrestleMania was on the table.
So you're going Roman walks out, champion.
Yeah.
It's about the same thing. That's where I'm kind of at right now.
think
I
you
just
have
had to.
to.
I just kind of had to throw all those
Until
those
it
discussion
happens.
points out there. Yeah,
Until
exactly.
it happens, you gotta go with Roman.
Logan Paul, Kevin Owens.
I'm gonna say Logan Paul.
Yeah, I'm gonna go there
I'm saying
too.
Logan Paul. I don't see why. Like, it just
I think him and Kevin
win
Owens
the
will
belt to
continue.
never defend it and then wait 2 months to lose it.
Yeah.
Like there's gonna be a little bit of an extension on this.
Women's Rumble.
I remember. I feel like I said like Raquel,
Yeah, you've mentioned. Yeah, well,
which I don't think is possible
on Christmas
anymore.
we talked about that. Yeah, our Christmas episode.
I'm gonna. My mind's changed on that more, and I'm thinking probably closer to Bailey.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be very Batista evolution like. I think she's playing. I think she's playing them because she knows that her days are numbered.
Yeah, because she is a smarter cookie.
Yeah.
She's not some big dumb person.
So she's making them all believe, hey, I'm going after Rhea.
So I think I would say if it gun to my head, one choice to pick from here, it's probably Bailey.
And I'm gonna go with that too. And the men,
I'm gonna go for now with Cody.
you're gonna go for Cody. I'm gonna go Punk. I know I said Christmas on the Christmas episode that I was kind of going with Gunther, but I think Punk's gonna. I think Cody's already in the midst of. He can get to where he needs to be without winning the Rumble. I know that you said it's repetitive. It's not repetitive, and I get that, but I think Punk just came back, and it's an obvious direction that they're going in with him and Rollins for WrestleMania, it looks like. I know I had shared this with you in private, but I wouldn't mind seeing Rollins not defend the title at the Rumble, but be in the Rumble match.
Yeah.
And Rollins kind of being the one to kind of like slotted in the Adam Page role where he's defending the WWE World Championship and the company from Punk. And he's trying to prevent Punk from winning the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
But Rollins' intention is at the same time winning the Rumble so that he can get this monkey off his back that is Punk. So it's almost like that to me I think would be the more interesting story, is that if Rollins put himself in that match for the sole purpose of he's going to choose Punk because he wants to get rid of Punk, and knowing that Punk is trying to win so that Punk could go after his title, I think that's a pretty interesting story arc and something, a lot of meat on the bone, having the World Heavyweight Champion who's the workhorse, who's created that workhorse mentality for that title, putting him in the Rumble match, I think would fit for this time period with his situation with Punk.
I like that idea a lot. Yeah,
so I'm gonna as much as I want to see Gunther win it, I think Gunther is still in that Intercontinental Championship space. Mm-hmm. But I think 2024 you'll see him shifted out of that at some point. I can't see them doing too many long record-breaking title reigns with him and Roman neck and neck. But so I'm going to go with Gunther. He's not winning the Rumble. Maybe he'll lose again, like to Punk. But I'm actually going to double down and go prediction-wise. I think Punk eliminates Rollins from this Royal Rumble match to win it.
There you go.
And you already got that one main title match set up.
And, you've given the audience a taste too. A little bit. And I can see that.
So
I like that.
that's where I'm at for Rumble predictions.
I dig it.
As we head towards 2024 Rumble. This has been the Build-A-Rumble here on Kicking Out at 2, and thank you all for joining us. We had a lot of fun, and I'm sure that we're going to do this again next year around Rumble seasons, maybe some different guidelines and parameters, different competitors, but overall, this was a lot of fun, and I think we really stacked up a good fantasy Royal Rumble match here for all of you. So, without further ado, thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
And it's time we put this one down over the top rope and both feet hit the floor, and we will see you all next time.